Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new season of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, after the embers and the ashes have cooled from what was a hot and feisty Season 12, we are making our way all the way into our 13th instalment of the much-loved Premier GT3 series. Another 10 rounds await us, a whole eclectic mix of venues, many of them which inspired by the iRacing official GT3 racing calendars. We've also got some unique circuits thrown into the mix as well from our SimRacing International admin team, and add it all together and you've got an absolute firecracker of a season to behold as we make our way into the summer of 2026. Of course, we do have our two splits back once again, but there's plenty of rules and regulation changes, and there is the return of what is Split A and Split B for this season, whereby, of course, previously in Season 12, we opted to experiment by making our way to two unique splits with two different sets of rules and regulations, being Masters and Superstars, both having the Pro, the Inter, and the Club classes. But it's back now, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Split A and Split B. We have 120 drivers split into two 60 driver lobbies, and in Split A, of course, you do have the return of what is the Elite and Pro classes, and meanwhile in Split B you have the return of the Premier and what used to be known as Evo but now known as the Club class coming into this 13th season. Alas, where are my manners? I've got ahead of myself. There's so much to reveal in this pre-season event. And where are my manners indeed? As we welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune tonight, catching up with all the racing action from the pre-season event, brought to you from Split A here, the Mobility Resort Motegi. A circuit that's lesser known and perhaps lesser respected, given the fact that whilst it may be in the shadow of the likes of Suzuka and also Autopolis and Okayama in Japan, it is a Japanese circuit that we wouldn't be without. Because at its core, its extensive length of 2.98 miles is a circuit that marries together hairpins and long straights to create a very unique stop-start style of circuit, whereby the aim of the game is to outrun your rivals to the next braking zone and absolutely nail us on the brakes and get the best possible corner exit. It makes overtaking tremendously tricky, but it also means when the battles do start, they run absolutely rampant from corner to corner, and that's what we absolutely love to see, and that's exactly why Motegi is on our calendar as our pre-season event. Some would like to say that we'd love to see points being available. There's no points up for grabs here today. It's all simply about bragging rights and getting a gauge of who exactly could be your closest rivals and what work you may need to do between now and when we get the season formally away with the first points bound races in a week's time. Of course, you're catching all this racing action on the official SimRacing International YouTube channel, and this broadcast is focused specifically on Split A. Now, to be 100% open to you, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't be in your commentary booth. My name is Paul Walsh. I should be over in your Split B commentary booth, and I will be for the purposes of your full season. Not that I don't want to be in your Split A commentary booth, of course, but of course I'm standing in for the absolutely brilliant combination, returning from his extended break around the world. He'll be returning as of next week. You don't have to wait too long for him. It will be Joe Glass who'll be back as your lead commentator and broadcaster, and he will have his absolute brilliant co-commentator in the commentary booth. You heard from, of course, alongside none other than Chaz Draycott last season. It will be none other than Darafak who joins Joe, and the two of them are going to be back together. But they weren't available for this week's round, understandably so, because it's a pre-season event. So therefore, you've got me, you've got your discount Joe and Darrett in the commentary booth. But I promise you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'll do my best to live up to them and build up as much hype as possible for them, as they'll be back in a week's time to kick off of what is round number 1 of season 13 for Split A and bring you all the coverage there. Meanwhile, I'll be making my way to Split B. And if you are here Saturday tonight thinking, well, where is the Split B broadcast? Well, it won't be live. It will be post-round as if it were live as of next week, most likely being on none other than what will be Wednesday, the 1st of July. So you've got to wait for that one a little bit, but I promise you we'll bring that as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience for you guys and girls tuning at home. But still, as we make our way into this pre-season event, and we're only a week away from formally getting started, well, the best thing to do, of course, is to bring you up to speed with all the latest news and information regarding Season 13, what's happened with regards to the calendar, what are the rules and regulations, and then we'll come back to the circuit and see how our drivers getting on in the qualifying session that's just started, and introduce some fresh faces and also some familiar ones that we'll reintroduce to you. But without further ado, it's off to the calendar we go. Now, as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of our calendar for this season, we are going to clean up a little bit as it is pre-season. It's only just been finalised. This is so hot off the press to the point I cannot touch it. Indeed, it's come fresh out of the oven there, and I need other mitts to be able to handle it. And, well, as we can see there, we've got an absolutely brilliant calendar ahead of us for Season 13. First up, of course, this pre-season event at the Mobility Resort Motegi, the Honda testing circuit. Then, in a week's time, we open up at the Watkins Glen International Circuit, making our way to the US state of New York on the 2nd of July. That'll be for a 90-minute opener there, and that's brand new for this season. season, we've decided to step away from the sprint round format, and what we've instead done is brought our practice session and our qualifying session down to 30 minutes apiece, and therefore what it does mean is that therefore we're able to run a little bit later into the evening, both in the UK and around the world, particularly for our friends and what is rivals on the European continent, and we are able to accommodate 90-minute races, which many have asked for and have been seen, of course, in our GT3 Championship and also in our Sunday GT3 Championship brought to you by UK SimRacing. So therefore it means we open up with an endurance race, 90 minutes at Watkins Glen. After which in round number 2, we make way to Australia for the Mount Panorama Racing Circuit, but you all know and love it and typically refer to it as Bathurst. That'll be for an hour of racing at the sunset, and mixed conditions are potentially possible. Then we make it away to Spa-Francorchamps on the 16th of July, and that will be for none other than a 1-hour race there, after which we'll take a step all the way back to the USA once again from the venerable Belgian circuit. We're racking up the air miles. It'll be to the US state of Virginia for the Virginia International Raceway on the 23rd of July. And we'll end the first half of the season with another endurance race, 3 of which this season, 2 in the first half of the season. And that'll be at Road America in the US state of Wisconsin on the 30th of July there, before we make our way back to Europe for the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg, and that'll be in mixed conditions, a 1-hour race to see off the start of the second half of the season. Then from the 6th of August to the 13th, we make our way to neighbouring France, the 24 Hours Le Mans circuit, also known as Circuit de la Sarthe, and that's where we'll have our 90-minute race, our final 90-minute race of the season. We've got to have an endurance race at Le Mans, it wouldn't be right otherwise. And then we've seen our drivers make the way to another endurance venue for the night race that's been introduced to this calendar for this season. Well, we do have an all-new night race, which has been requested to our drivers, where all the headlights come on and also the floodlights go on, and it will be at Daytona's International Speedway on the 20th of August, after which for our penultimate round, we make our way back to the European continent for a brief stop, and that'll be at the Red Bull Ring in Austria for our mixed conditions round, before seeing the curtain come down the 3rd of September, and we start in Japan, we end in Japan, because we'll be making our way to none other than the Mie Prefecture's Suzuka International Racing Course Grand Prix circuit, and that's where we'll bring down the curtain and crown our champions. An incredible calendar lies in wait, and this calendar applies to both Split A and Split B. There are no differences between the two splits. There's no differences in the format. Indeed, we have 3 endurance race rounds. That's rounds, what is it, 1, and also there 5 and 7. And we also do have our regular 60-minute feature race rounds. You can ask for a better calendar, no doubt about it. If that is our calendar, well, what are our drivers competing for over the course of 10 rounds? Well, there's plenty of prizes in store. And of course, just to remind you of those prizes, here they are on screen. 40 personalised driver trophies to be won. Indeed, these trophies worth more than money ever will be worth, because it's always a representation on the mantelpiece of what you're able to achieve at a specific point in time, and those memories live on in the sim racing world as much as they do in the real motorsport world. And as we can see in Split A and Split B, there will be trophies for the top 5 drivers in each of our classes. We see in the Teams Championship, all drivers in the top 5 teams, of which there can be up to 4 drivers in each team, they will all be receiving trophies there for 1st through to 5th, and those trophies, of course, the much coveted SimRacing International Black trophies include the driver's car livery and team logo, and also do believe on the back side what is the results of their season, and you can ask for a more glamorous way to celebrate your achievements over the course of a season campaign. So with those in mind, well, what exactly has changed with regards to rules and regulations this season? Well, here's a quick summary for you. We broke it all down, we went through the rule book, we sat through the lectures, and what we can tell you is thus. Firstly, split class assignments. As we mentioned, the biggest change this season, reverting back to Split A and Split B. We have stepped away from what has been the combination of none other than Masters and Superstars. It was an experiment. We may bring it back at some point, but at least not for the time being. And I'm sure many of you will be quite pleased to see the return of our 2 what is class-defined splits. But Split A then, Elite and Pro, the very top of the echelons when it comes to our driver classes, and we look forward to seeing what our drivers can be doing there with regards to the very best of the best. But of course, not everyone's going to be the quickest out there, and sometimes we do have our drivers who are a little bit more focused towards maintaining their pace and enjoying what is a competitive environment, and that's exactly what Split B is for. And also for our developing drivers who one day want to become a pro and one day want to enter the elite of the elite, and that's where in Split B we'll have Premier and Club, and we look forward to seeing all 60 of our drivers in each of those splits go toe-to-toe with each other. And we've got a relatively even split of drivers across all of our classes, and well, we might have some driver lists available for you in round 1, those driver lists being finalised, and those class lists being finalised as well. Now, car setup-wise, fuel loads have been restricted to 70%. We have gone back and how the fuel loads used to be coming out of Season 11. We did have some changes to the fuel loads going into Season 12, whereby we did see a smaller fuel tank for the Masters and a larger fuel tank for the Superstars. But nope, we have gone back to the 70% that we did see in Season 11, so therefore everyone knows the fuel load, and that's exactly what they need to deal with. Also, what you'll notice there, we have a slight change to the car change rule for this season. 1 car change is permitted. That's as per usual. It's allowed after round number 1, but it comes with a cost this season, where there are no longer any free car changes. It's like there's never a free lunch, and it will be subject to a championship penalty of 30 points. Now, you may be sat there thinking, well, how big is that? Well, do keep in mind, of course, a win is worth 100 points, so you do the quick mathematics, and when it does turn out, that is going to be the best part of a third of a round if you take a win. So therefore, you've got to be quite decisive on whether you decide to go for the car change, and if so, well, it's got to pay off for you, because otherwise it could punish you towards the end of the season when points become very precious. That's a new factor there. And qualifying wise, well, the session length is now 30 minutes. We've taken full 15 minutes off of it, and therefore it does mean there's a little bit more pressure on qualifying time to try and get the best possible lap together. And qualifying scrutiny has been set to moderate, whereby we set it in the middle ground, not too strict, but not too loose either. And our drivers have plenty of opportunity to try and get a good lap together within that 30-minute window. Now, as for the races, well, the instant point limits have been adjusted as well, whereby we now have 16 instant points, gives you a drive-through penalty, and 26 will give you a race disqualification. And that's in line with the standardised set of instant points that will now apply to all SimRacing International series, where we do have feature length races and also endurance races. So we decided to standardise across the board across all of our series, and indeed we look forward to those regulations being implemented. So those are the big rule changes that you need to know about. If you've got any questions at any point, feel free to let us know in the YouTube chat and we'll fill you in as best as possible. But as for our track today, well, of course, it is the Mobility Resort Motegi, the Grand Prix layout to which our drivers will be taking on. Now located near the city from which it takes its name in the Motegi prefecture of Japan, 2.98 miles in length or 4.8 kilometers, depend on your preference of units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 14 in total. And as we mentioned earlier on, this circuit, Honda-owned circuit, built originally by the Honda Motor Company all the way back in 1997 is when it was opened, and was all aimed about improving the company's understanding of American open wheel racing, previously known as kart, and now known in the modern day as IndyCar. Although sadly, of course, if you are big fans of your racing circuits around the globe, many of you will join me in the sorrow which is known that we will never see the oval of this circuit ever used again. It has been retired as of 2026 quite recently, and the final laps have been turned around. And this circuit used to be known as Twin Ring Motegi, in reference to the fact it had an oval and also the Grand Prix circuit which you see on screen, and well, both could be technically run simultaneously, although in reality they could not due to safety reasons, but they were two separate circuits adjoined by the pit lane, whereby essentially the oval runs over the top of the first half of the Grand Prix circuit, as you can make out slightly in the circuit map, provided to us by iRacing.com, and a huge thank you to them, not just their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. Now, as we can see with regards to this circuit diagram, it is all about hairpins and straights. Now, drivers will know that straight away as they roar the way from one of the lower points of the circuit at turn 14, all the way into the opening bend of turns 1 and 2, where it's a double apex open whip hairpin, and then they make their way into a much sharper double left to turns 3 and 4, where it's a 90-degree left-hander, followed up by a late apex sweeper at 4, only then to sprint their way in towards turn number 5. Hard on the brakes, they'll go through there, and outwards they'll go, and underneath the oval, while making their way into the sweeping S at turns 6, 7, and 8, where they come hard onto the brakes into their hairpin at turn number 9, and it's a quick sprint up towards turn number 10. Making their way onto the backstretch, also known as what is the Eastern Start-Finish Straight, given the fact we do have East and West layouts of the circuit. The West layout used in the Start-Finish Straight of the Grand Prix layout, which is what we use today, and of course we do have the Eastern layout there, which is more focused towards club level racing, and it is all starting on the run from 10 to 11, but as the drivers make their way down one of the longer stretches of the tarmac, they'll come down here into the braking zone at turn number 11, the most notable elevation change being the run from turn 10 to 11, and also the run out of 11 up towards 14, but as they exit out of the right-hander at turn 11, that off-camber corner, they'll need to make their way for the double left into right, a very tricky combination of 3 corners, in order to complete lap and hopefully get it right, and either see that checker flag or see the next timed lap. But with that, ladies and gents, we brought you up to speed with our host circuit for this pre-season event. We've brought you up to the rule changes, so the only other thing to do now is take you back to circuit side and see how our drivers are getting on in the shortened qualifying session. And as the drivers make the way around, well, already the best part of 13 minutes has passed in this qualifying session, and well, we can see a good number of drivers out here. Grand total, at least in Split A, who have made the way today to Japan, of what is there, 11 drivers I do believe, but we may have a few more decide to arrive. Now, understandably, this is a pre-season event, so it's not mandatory, and on top of that as well, just to add fuel to the fire, because it is so burning hot, several drivers opt in not to participate today, given the fact of the inclement weather conditions that definitely are plaguing the European continent. To put it in perspective, in solidarity with our drivers out there, because several of them in their sim rigs with no fan or ventilation and such in their rooms which they're racing, I decided not to turn my fan on, so I'm absolutely dripping with sweat right now here in the content booth. And no, we're not going to cut to a video feed of that. Nobody needs to see that. A grown man absolutely sweated himself to bits. But as we do see our drivers sweating themselves out there as well, well, they're all putting in some great effort. But currently the fastest driver out there, Richard Simnell with DCW Racing, bringing a whole host of drivers to the grid for this season, similar to Science Park up there and time back to the pit lane. So we do look to his teammate, Patrick Falconer, or Paddy as he's known to friends, and we look forward to seeing him make his debut for this season. But beside the point, DCW Racing bringing 2 teams worth of drivers to the grid for this season. I do believe they've got 7 drivers who have entered, although don't quote me on that number, but we do have a huge DCW Racing contingent, and of course Richard Simnor previously having raced alongside Andy Jones and also Mark Collicott in the Sunday series, and they decided to go full force into the Thursday series, and we very much look forward to seeing them all take it on, and a brand new livery for DCW Racing. Since the previous season, they've decided to go all in on new livery, and it continues to catch the old theme of the yellows that DCW Racing are known for, but also a bit more of a vibrant aqua colour towards the rear. And I must say, I really do like the more modernised livery. Not to say the old colours were not great, but of course they've been running the same livery for the best part, I do believe, of almost a decade, and will change is always sometimes warranted. But as Falcon makes one out and Richard Simnor currently the fastest, well, they're both going to be racing in the elite class this season based on the current class assignments, and those, of course, provisional to round number 1. They may be changed after round 1 if there's anybody who's very much out of place as it's discovered, and we'll understandably all the class assignments are always provisional for the first couple of rounds just until they're nailed down, and SimRacing International does reserve the right to make some slight changes, but normally all the classes are correctly assigned before round 1. We only do it by exception if needed. But Simnor right now definitely will be looking to be one of the favourites for this season. And it'll be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do to try and take the pace to all of his rivals. But you'll have plenty of fresh faces to contend with, including a new fresh face in the form of James Mead, who currently parked up in the pit lane there. And we'll could see Mead all ready to go, as we do look to the YouTube chat then. Say hello to a few of you, including none other than Denny Ploger, who says, "Good evening, Paul. Have a good one." And the same to you, Denny. I hope you have a good one, and I hope you're keeping well, good sir. And we also do say hello to Vault9 C5B, who says, "I've seen this track when I was watching Super Formula Racing." And indeed, if you're curious as to when the Twin Ring Motegi, or now known as Mobility Resort Motegi Circuit, is run in real life series, well, it is a staple of club and national racing in Japan, including the likes, of course, of none other than the MX5 Cup Championships, and also what is the likes of Super GT, although to be fair, I think that would be a little bit unfair to call Super GT a national level championship, because it does gain international faces, as does the Super Formula SF series. But it's also a national series, Super Formula Light, which is the precursor to Super Formula, also the Japanese Formula 4 championship race around here on an annual basis, and of course this circuit very much reflected in the Japanese anime, if you are a big fan of your anime, called Overtake, which was all dedicated to the Japanese F4 series, and a highly recommended anime if you're looking for your first step into anime, and also you're a big motorsport fan. Overtake really bridging the gap between essentially an entry point into anime, and also if you're not a big motorsport fan, if you've got members of the family who are always curious about motorsport and want something entertaining to educate them, well, it's the perfect anime for that, and has got quite an emotional story behind it. But as Patrick Falcon makes his way through, he'll feel very animated as he heads towards that time in line. Now he is currently 7.5 tenths off of Richard Simnor, and well, he's a little bit off of James Mead, who makes his way out in a very colourful liveried Corvette, and well, the Corvette Z06 GT3R has definitely become a bit more of a popular car as he makes his way around, and I think Richard Simnor has been a part of the popularity that has grown with the car, given his run to the crown in what was none other than the Sunday series last season, and well, definitely a very positive conclusion to all of his racing. But we've got plenty of fresh faces, as we say. James Mead racing for Snack and Sons, he heads on around. It's absolutely great to see him here as he makes his way through the corners, and as he does so, well, all these drivers right now absolutely itching. In fact, I need to correct myself there. Richard Simnor, not in the Sunday series, in the Thursday series. Oh, goodness me, my brain is in a bit of a muddle. And he was your pro champion in Superstars last season. I always get the good flated, the two of them. But he did, he took that title, and he returns in Elite after what was an epic conclusion at Donington in a three-way fight with Milton Tomlinson Dennis and Brandon Dyer, which literally went down to the final lap and the final points that were paid between all the drivers. So therefore, Richard Simnor definitely is one of the big names who'll be looking to try and take the crown, and arguably is what not quite the defending driver out there, but he is one of the defenders, because you do have to consider the fact that we do have, of course, none other than your Masters pros, albeit intriguingly, your top three Masters not returning for this season, and that was none other than what was Glass Tech Racing's trio of Marius Hibner, William Humphrey and Matt Hoyland. And well, we're going to be definitely missing them over the course of this season, no doubt about it, but it opens up a new doorway, if you will. And the last time we did have an elite champion back in season 11, where it was Sead Ploeg, the Dutchman, racing as part of Vulcan Motorsports Gold, and well, he wasn't on the grid for the purposes of the second half of season 12. The Vulcan Motorsports team did decide to retire due to personal circumstances and availability. We hope to see them back in the near future. But we've stayed on our elite drivers for some time. Let's talk a little bit about some of our pro drivers out there, denoted, of course, by the green sash against their names in the time town at the bottom of your screen. Hayden Ahmed, New to the grid for this season, racing the McLaren 720S, and well, we haven't quite got him out there in the pit lane at the moment for Champs Motorsport, so we hope to see him out in due course. But Hayden Ahmed, of course, one of those drivers whereby he's representing a team that we have seen race in our series previously, albeit not officially under the Champs Motorsport name. They've raced as privateers, represented by none other. And then what is Sam Hockley, and we'll definitely get to see Champs Motorsport coming out in full force, and none other than Sam Hockley making his way from what has been Sundays to Thursdays, and you'll definitely see him out there, not today I don't think for this pre-season event, but you will see him out there for the purposes of round 1 onwards, and Champs Motorsport are putting in a full team's entry. And James Paisley Knight, another one coincidentally, indeed it was not completely planned, well okay, it was planned to be looking at a Champs Motorsport car, new livery on the car as well. They've gone from their British Racing green machine to a much more vibrant covered livery, and James Paisley Knight makes his debut, and he completes the Champs Motorsport lineup there as he decides to make his way into the pit lane, and will shortly most likely going back out once again. But as he does sit in the car for a brief moment, we do have Max Wheeler. He returns, albeit Max Wheeler not out there at the moment in his wonderful Audi R8 Evo 2 LMS. So let's bring you a different Audi, but he's also in the Pro class. This is none other, and I will make sure to get his name right when I say it, the Czechia driver. And well, I'm just double checking my notes here, and it's none other than Jan Jančík, who makes his way out on towards turn number 11 right now. And well, the Pokemon livery there, and I get the feeling there's a bit of a Japanese theme, or perhaps he's a Pokemon fan. Of course, Pokemon originating in Japan, both as an animated series and also as the highly popular, if you ever grew up in the 90s, like I did, particularly the early 90s, you may have had a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color, or dare say a Game Boy Advance if you had the money for it. And well, you'll remember the Pokemon games that definitely ended up seeing kids spend a lot more time glued to screens than going outside. But then, of course, we did have the likes of the Pokemon Go app that arrived in, I do believe, the midst of the 2010s, if not a little bit earlier, and that led to a lot of children going outside and even young adults going outside, but still looking at their phones rather looking at where they were going in order to try and catch Pokemon. But right now, can we expect that Jančík may catch a few strays today, and will he be able to catch some places and also some willing eyes to look on him, as he's currently the 8th fastest out there, the 5th fastest of your pro drivers. But we also do have, not just him, but Max Wheeler. In fact, we can look to the Freewheeler Racing drive back once again, and well, he did ask going into this season, what's the points penalty for changing car? Because of course, Max Wheeler is a huge fan of the Vorsprung durch Technik, or the Audi brand, that being their brand mantra, of course, advancement through technology. I do believe that's what it translates literally from German into English too. The only problem is the Audi R8, not a popular car in iRacing anymore, and a car that is being retired from real-life racing, albeit is still supported by what is Audi for customer teams, but it is no longer represented by the manufacturer themselves in GT3 racing, as they have focused all their investment on Formula 1, and well, they'll be definitely taking over the Sauber team in the near future, if not already. And therefore, for Max Wheeler, he was asking about how many points would be the penalty, and when we told him 30 points, we did come to a bit of a compromise, jokingly, to say if you paint 4 rings all over the car, regardless of what you change it to, we'll consider it still to be an Audi. And indeed, you'll find that Max, on most liveries, on any car he races, there's 4 rings somewhere representing Audi, even if it's not an Audi itself. Of course, we don't make special rules for drivers. He will be subject to the same penalty. He does change his car. We decide to make a bit of fun out of it, because we know he's a big advocate of the Audi. Now, we do have, as well, Mav Gardner make his way out today, albeit he's not currently in the car in the pit lane, but we do have Mav Gardner representing and SimRacing Collective Esports, who make a big entry into what is our Pro and Elite classes for Split A this season. And well, you get to see some of their drivers out there today. Mav Gardner in particular, who's normally the silent one in the group of the SimRacing Collective Esports. I do believe we were potentially expecting Kieran Sharp to join, although I think he may have decided not to join at the last minute. He was a bit of a 50-50 given the weather conditions. And well, as Benjamin Hunter makes his way around, well, let's talk a little bit about the man who's on our screen. Now, for Hunter, as he makes his way onwards, we'll definitely try to hunt some time here today, and he is racing as part of Snack and Sons. He'll be alongside Hayden Ahmed, and very happy to have the two of them together here today, and looking forward, we're not with Hayden Ahmed, my apologies, with James Mead. Let's get those names right, and we look forward to seeing how they all do. Hayden Ahmed, of course, the Chaps Motorsport driver in his McLaren. As Hunter makes his way around, we also do have the arrival of Andy Jones, who you've seen in the previous season. He's back once again. And very exciting to have Andy with us, and well, hopefully making a bit of a stronger campaign this time after a bit of a mixed set of results last time out. Really hoping it's all going to work out. But we also do say hello to Mark Kent _94 in the YouTube chat. So there's a good chunk of Audis at Spa this weekend as well for the Spa Francorchamps 24, and indeed the Audi brand, it'll keep on racing until the day that car cannot race anymore. And the day we don't get to hear that wonderful V10 will be a sad day. Of course, Lamborghini with their Huracan representing the Audi engine, but they're moving on to their latest GT3 in the near future, the Tremorario, I do believe, although that may not be the best way of saying it, and if so, I've completely butchered the name, but understanding they're moving away to their own Lamborghini engine rather than Audi engine. And, well, the V10 will have to go silent at some point. Indeed, V10's gradually becoming more extinct than the dinosaurs. But as we do see Andy Jones make his way through the last couple of corners and trying to get his first lap on the board, we're going to jump on board with him, ladies and gentlemen, for a second flying lap as he takes us around the wonderful Mobility Resort Motegi Grand Prix circuit. Making his way up towards turn number 1. As he does so, braking there, about 100 metres from corner apex, you trail off the brakes here and try to go for a V-shaped cut. Does that absolutely splendidly as he makes way out in second gear and now up towards turn number 3. A brief review before he gets himself over to the right-hand side for the braking zone for turn number 3. He'll look for his brake mark. It will be the 100 metre board there, and as he brakes, coming all the way down to second gear, and here you have to be very patient on the throttle before you now build the throttle up, lift off slightly as you come through 4. You can't afford to be full throttle there unless you've got the tyres really warmed up. But I think Jones having to do a small lift, and now coming in towards turn number 5. Braking his way at the 100 metre board all the way down the gearbox once again, taking plenty of apex curve to help rotate the car and using the exit curve there to stabilise it as he now makes way flat out through turn number 6. Here the attitude of the lap slightly changes in the middle sector where it's all about medium speed flow rather than heavy braking zones for a brief moment as he comes in towards turn 7 and then 8. Left and right he goes through these corners, the car bouncing around there with a slight change in the road surface, and as he now makes way now, he's got to bring it over to the right side quite quickly for the turn 9 hairpin. Now we're back to stop-start as he makes way through that left-hander, taking a lot of apex curve, but the problem is he's come to it a bit too early. That's going to cost him some time. But still, for Jones, he makes way over to the left-hand side. And now get ready to go onto the brakes, just after the 100 metre board, more towards the 50 board, in fact around 70 metres from corner apex, down to second gear, keeping it nice and tight, don't understeer out, and now make his way down the E-straight he will. But as he builds up the speed here, the longest stretch of tarmac is going to start finish straight. As he looks over to his left-hand side, he'll be waiting for his brake marker, and it will be at that 100 metre board. He'll go onto the brakes just before it, about 110 metres, down to second gear. The downhill plunge, off camber on entry, and now making his way underneath the oval and in towards turn 12. Keeping the car right in the middle of the road for turn 13. The car's rear lifts up there under braking and now sliding his way through turns 13 and 14, straight in the two corners together. It's a smooth lap from Jones, but what's it going to be as he heads towards that timeline? Is it going to be one that is valid? And the answer to that question is yes, it is. It puts him into 5th place at 1 minute 50.117. So Andy Jones there finding a bit of time, and well, that puts him almost a second off the pole time set by his teammate of Richard Simnor. But again, there's no points on the line today. It's just bragging rights and a gauge of pace. Wesley Van Rens makes his way out. It's good to see Wesley back once again. And well, we're very happy to see him out there as he makes way through for 9 Pegasus Panthera once more, or the 9PP team as they're also known, or 9PP Racing in full. And right now he makes his way down towards turn number 3 in his Ferrari, and indeed we normally do see Wesley in a Ferrari 296, and well, this is no exception here for this season. But what's the game plan going to be for him as he steps up into the pro class this season? Of course, it's been a bit interesting because we have had to go from 3 classes to 4 again. So a few drivers have either been moved up effectively or moved down or been put between 2 classes just about. And well, there's been a bit of class adjustment out there, no doubt about it. As he rolls way onwards, well, right now, with only 3 minutes left to go, we've got 12 drivers here, bit of a limited field, but understandably, a field whereby a lot of these drivers, I think, will just be feeling there's a little bit of heat out there, and well, I think they'll all be trying to take it as easy as possible and just seeing what they can do. But as they do let us know if you're sat in the YouTube chat right now. If you're watching and you do plan to be on the grid for the season, do let us know what your thoughts are in terms of your car choices this season. If you want to, of course, you don't have to do that, as all drivers do continue to make the way around. It's always a bit of a game in terms of car choice with regards to what cars our drivers go for. And not all of them will go for cars that will be the most obvious necessarily, but it always leads to a spot of intrigue when they do so, because of the simple reason, the fact it leads to what is that big question of which car is exactly the right car to be in. And well, we do sometimes see some drivers absolutely pick the right car to be in, others meanwhile do not, and well, that's all part of the plot. But as we do see, none other there than what is Wesley Van Rens coming towards the end of his current lap. We've still got a little bit more to do out there as he rolls his way down to the start-finish line. What's it going to be this time? Does he get a van lap on the board? And the answer to that question is going to be yes, he does. But it's the slowest time at the moment, and will make his way on around through turns 1 and 2. Now, we do see there Vault 9 C5B. So speaking about upcoming GT3 cars in the future, the Lexus RC GT3, which is not in iRacing, well, it's believed to be planned by the Toyota GR GT3, and you'd be absolutely spot on at Vault 9, although to be fair, as a massive Lexus RCF fan, I mean, I love the old lady to bits with regards to that car. I refer to her as the old lady, given the fact she's one of the longest serving GT3s out there, although to be fair, you should never really assign a gender to inanimate objects, but we normally do to cars, to be fair. I'm sad that the Lexus RCF GT3 is not in iRacing, just because I think it is one of those cars, much like the Acura NSX, whereby it deserves its spot, even though it's about to be retired, as a car that definitely has its place in memory. However, like you mentioned, we will be seeing the Lexus brand, which for those who do not know is the premium portion of Toyota. Toyota and Lexus are joined at the hip, essentially. They are the same company for all purposes. It's just two different manufacturers as represented as brandings. We will be seeing the GT3 offering move to Toyota. There has been a big question over the last year or so, and Toyota confirmed the answer to that question early this year, that we are going to be seeing Toyota take over the GT3 helm. And it makes sense, to be fair, because they do have their LMDH offering in the form of the Toyota GR010, if I remember correctly, in what is Hypercar, and therefore for Toyota to have both a GT3 offering and also what is an LMDH, or what is the replacement LMP1 offering, it definitely would work out. And we're very much looking forward to what is the V8 twin turbo machine, and even Lexus are giving up the naturally aspirated V8 for a twin turbo. Indeed, it's going to be shortly. There's only going to be two cars out there in naturally aspirated V8s, and they'll both be American. It'll be the Ford Mustang and also the Corvette 06 GT3R. As we do come back to our core vet man at the very front of the field right now, and he's definitely looking to be in control, is none other than Richard Simnor. But as he makes his way on around, well, time is almost done, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to this qualifying session. Not long left, and right now all the drivers still picking up the pace, picking up the pieces, and we're not long for this well before we do see our drivers have to make their way back into pit lane. And those who are not out on lap at the moment, including Harvey Wheeler, who does return, of course, after his heroics in what has been the Sunday Series, taking that crown in an absolute brilliant season-long battle with MK Sim Sports drivers. Well, Harvey Wheeler will be here in the elite class. We look forward to seeing what he can do. But right now, the last star drivers completing the laps if they haven't already done so, and we do see James Paisley Knight making his way down the back straight. He's not too far away from seeing what will be the finish line of his qualifying session. Can he go a bit higher? Can he get a bit closer to Hayden Ahmed, fellow Chaps Motorsport driver, who is currently the best part of 6/10 faster by comparison? I'll have to wait and see. As we do say hello to Nathan Anstis, or Anstis96, who says good luck everyone, and good evening to you, Nathan, as well. And I hope you're doing well, good sir. Nathan Anstis, of course, are very much celebrated driver in GT3 racing. You'll see him typically on Sundays, and also much loved as an administrator for the UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship. He's been administrating it for as long as I have been covering it, which is the best part of 3.5 years if you add it all together, I do believe. But as James Paisley Knight comes across the timing line, does not improve that time, so that's the first he's going to go in this qualifying session. And we do still have Richard Simnor heading towards the line, where he's already on pole, and we're 600ths faster than James Mead. Is that going to be the end of the story today in terms of qualifying, or can you go a bit faster? And the answer is going to be, will it be a Simnor special? Well, almost. He literally was only 13 thousandths off a match his previous best, so Simnor's got more time out there to find. Meanwhile, we do also have Wesley Van Rens making his way down, as we do Benjamin Hunter in his BMW M4 Evo. Here he comes towards what will be that braking zone. But meanwhile, going straight into the pit lane there, Wesley Van Rens, he's not going any further, and well, makes his way over the grass there. He won't be allowed to do that in the race, I can tell you, as Benjamin Hunter also comes into the pit lane. And that'll be his qualifying session done and dusted. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does seem as though out of our 12-car order today, Richard Simnor, your pole sitter, elite and overall for split A. And we do have a top 3 of elites with James Mead and Andy Jones completing that trio. And then it will be to your pro pole sitter of Hayden Ahmed on his debut for Chaps Motorsport, who was in the end 6/10 faster than James Paisley Knight, his teammate, but split in the pair. Patrick Falconer will start in 5th place, full for your elite drivers. And then we do have none other than what will be Max Wheeler in 7th place, ahead of Mav Gardner, who put a lap in or two and then decided to park up in his Porsche 992. And I don't know if any of you heard the news earlier today about what Porsche are now bringing to the table in GT racing, their new GT4. It's not going to be a Cayman 718 anymore, it's going to be a 911. That, to be fair, is very bold of them. Oh, I'm liking the sound of that, but let's stay in the GT3 mindset for now. And indeed, as the circuit goes very quiet, this twin ring Motegi circuit, or Mobility Resort Motegi, well, for rebranding reasons, we should refer to it as the latter rather than the former, although the original always sticks in my mind. And, well, all of our drivers have definitely done their time in qualifying, with Max Wheeler, Mav Gardner, Jan Janchik, and also Benjamin Hunter, Wesley Van Rens, all set in valid times. And meanwhile, no time set from none other than what was your elite driver, I do believe Harvey Wheeler. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now do wait to see all drivers make the way back out there onto circuit. We have got a 5-minute warm-up period, and then we will be go. And Harvey Wheeler for this season, a BMW M4 Evo for three-wheeler racing. Well, how about that? A bit of a different car, but to be fair, It'll be an interesting challenge for him. A very different car compared to what he's perhaps used to. But we're always excited to see new cars for drivers, no doubt about it. And the purpose of this 5-minute warm-up session, as we do see the driver who drives around with the Rexy helmet in dedication to AO Racing's Rexy, the much-loved dinosaur livery, and well, the story of that Porsche 992 GT3 all stemming from the fact it was one of, I believe, the race engineer's children absolutely loved dinosaurs, and in the end drew a picture of a dinosaur, and it was decided, why not put it on the car? And it's led to Rexy, which is the GT3 Porsche, Roxy, which has been the purpley pink GT3 Porsche, but has also transitioned into becoming an LMP2, or evolved, we should say, to use the dinosaur terminology. And the funny part about it, of course, is when Rexy has a bad day in a round, they do try to make the most out of it with the livery. And some of you may remember at Daytona, I think it was this year, to start off the endurance season, well, Rexy got into a few scraps essentially with other GT3s, so they decide to put a couple of proverbial plasters on the car for Rexy, but also put a set of boxing gloves on the side of the car as well with little dinosaur arms to make it look as though Rexy's learnt how to box and will be going battling in the future races. Indeed, I absolutely love the story. It has really built a whole culture around it, and well, that's what gets people interested in motorsport, to be fair. That's not to say the fact there's nobody interested in motorsport, but when you do something like that, it is a brilliant marketing strategy, and I'm all for AO Racing to do that, to be fair, as we do see Harvey Wheeler making his way on around. And this 5-minute warm-up session, giving our drivers an opportunity to make sure they put the race setup on the car, get out the car if they need to in order to take a little bit of a breather, perhaps get themselves a top of a liquid refreshment, which we will definitely make sure to take a sip of water very shortly so we don't lose our voice. But either way, all the drivers definitely locked in for the ride now. As Richard Simnott makes his way around. And right now, Simnott definitely, I think, will be very happy with the way that things have gone in his qualifying session to take that pole position. Of course, the thought process will be it's going to be a lot tougher next time out, and well, he'll be wondering, etc. Well, he'll be wondering in regards to what exactly the competition will be like in the first round of the season where the points are on the line. So really, this is just going to be a little bit of a comfort check to make sure he's very happy with the car, and then from round 1 onwards, I suspect the pressure will pile on. But meanwhile, we do look to Patrick Falconer, his teammate, and well, the Irish driver, more commonly typically associated, of course, with what is, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, front engine front wheel drive racing. So more looking towards what would be none other than TCR racing, but to be fair, he also does enjoy driving GT3s, and well, we do have there no team name against him, so let's make sure we do get that absolutely fixed and spot on as he makes his way on around there. And I do believe you'll see your livery, we'll see the overlay update itself very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and well, he'll have his correct representation there for DCW Racing for Patrick Falconer. He's a lovely guy, to be as fair as well, and well, all the DCW Racing drivers are really a good team to be a part of, and the great thing about them is when they come down to business, they get very serious. But outside the car and when they're on practice days, you would think it was just a bunch of lads with what is some rather crass humour at certain points, it must be said. But they are an absolutely brilliant group. And that's what leads them being so successful in series they compete in the fact they've really got the work hard, play hard mentality nailed down to a T. But as we do see Wesley Van Rens make his way on around there, well, the Revolution 3 racing, I do apologise there, I thought it was 9 Pegasus Panfrey. He's raced with them previously, but I think for this season he has actually moved teams. I'll double check my notes. And well, that team change there for the Dutchman, quite an important one as he makes his way on around, but he's always an absolute star out there, regardless of what team he races for, and indeed an absolutely lovely driver to boot as well. But less than a minute to go now. Harvey Wheeler's put a time on the board, but that time will be worth very little other than just making sure he's very comfortable with the car, and we do have a 1 hour race only moments away. So you haven't taken that important bathroom break, or you feel the need to go get yourself a top of liquid refreshment, go do it very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, because I can assure you, we've only got about 2 to 3 minutes to go with the formation lap, and then we will be green flag racing for this pre-season event. And whilst we only have 12 cars, I want to tell you one thing, in racing, both in real life and on the simulator, quantity doesn't always guarantee excitement, but it is the quality of the drivers that does, and we've got some quality drivers here, as we've already seen in qualifying, and I suspect that quality is going to shine through as they go green flag racing. But without further ado, it is time then to make our way to the grid. It is time for 60 minutes of pre-season racing action here at the Mobility Resort Motegi in the Takigi Prefecture of Japan. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they're all lined up for one and only race today. Taking pole position, elite and overall, it's Richard Simnor for DCW Racing. He'll be joined on the front row by debutant for Snack & Sons, that's James Mead. It's a battle of the Corvettes at the front, and then it will be from American Muscle to the Prancing Horse from Italy, because it'll be Andy Jones who starts in third for DCW Racing. He'll be joined on that second row by none other than what will be your pro pole sitter of Hayden Armour for Chaps Motorsport on his debut, and then we will see on a debut of his own for Patrick Falconer for DCW Racing, it's fifth there, and just falling away from the front two rows of all elite drivers. Then we do see, but directly behind the pro pole sitter, it'll be James Paisley Knight, the second member of the Chaps Motorsport family here today. Then we do have none other Max Wheeler for Freewheeler Racing, starting third of your pros, 7th overall. From his Audi, it'll then be Mav Garner for the SimRacing Collective Esports, who after doing a couple laps at the start of the session decided to get out the car in his Porsche. And then from the Scotsman, it will be to the Czechia driver of Jan Jančík, who starts in 9th place ahead of none other than Benjamin Hunter for Snack & Sons. And whilst he'll be trying to snack on the rear of the pros in front of him, someone trying to turn him into a snack will be Wesley Van Brens for Evolution Free Racing, and not setting a lap time, starting from the back, it'll be Harvey Wheeler in 12th place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a short formation lap as our drivers make the way along. And as they come through, well, right now, we're not too far away from going green flag racing, or are we? Well, no, we're not. We're only a couple of corners, and it'll be Richard Simnor to take us to the green. As we say hello there to Aspen Dozier, who asked the big question. I might have missed it, but in the new rules, is it 1-3 fast repair in both splits or just split B? It's one fast repair available in both splits. So therefore, split B and split A, they run to the same rule set for this season. There is no difference between the two of them. But meanwhile, looking to make a difference at the front, it's over to Richard Simnor to take us away for 60 minutes of racing action here at Motegi. And it's lights out, away we go for the pre-season race event as Richard Simnor gets a good start, and Andy Jones meanwhile sticks to the inside, trying to cover him off as they make the way in towards the opening quarter. But as they do, well, Hayden Armour's had a bit of a slow start, finding himself being attacked by Max Wheeler. Lightning start there for the Audi driver in the pro class. He moves up into the lead of the pros, but immediately now Hayden Armour tries to come back here. Remember, that Audi's very quick off the line, but the only thing about it is it's got some very tricky tyre temperatures to manage. It is a very sensitive car, and Hayden Armour puts pressure on immediately, and that's how you beat an Audi driver. You have to get under their skin early on. And Max Wheeler, to be fair, will know about it, and he gets slightly biffed wide. But as they make the way out of the corner, that's going to cause it to fall backwards slightly. No malice meant there, and that's just early contact between two cars as they come down. But James Paisley Knight squeezed into the space. At Chaps Motorsport 1-2 in the pro class as all drives safely on through the opening two hairpins. And as they come through the third of them, well, the Pokemon machine there goes a bit deep. And Jan Jančík there losing out to Harvey Wheeler, who finds his way through. So Harvey Wheeler from 12th to 10th. And make it a bit more progress. But of course, there's still plenty of time in this race, and therefore we look forward to seeing how it all evolves as time goes on. As they wind and weave their way between the corners. Well, right now, these drivers are all settling down into a bit of rhyme and rhythm at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see what is a bit of a burgeoning battles as we do go deep and deep into this race. But right now, at least, everyone keeping their cool and keeping their head down. And we do get the time clock at the top centre of your screen so that we can stay up to the latest laps and also how much time has been spent. But as they make the way out of turn number 11 and down, out turn number 10 and down towards 11, we should say. James Mead there, being under a bit of pressure on Patrick Falconer, and in turn has Hayden Armour and James Paisley Knight following him. But Mav Gardner, well, he's under pressure here from Max Wheeler, who says, I want to be the better of the two German marks. But Mav Gardner beats him on the brakes in towards the right-hander, but he can't quite shut the door on him. But in the end, he's able to go around the outside and just about holds the position. But Mav Gardner, having gained one place since the start, definitely feeling the pressure. But what a lightning start was for Max Wheeler, and unfortunately, a little bit of contact between himself and Hayden Armour through turn 4. As always, I think he would be leading that pro class right now as they go on to lap number 2. But after one lap, it's Simnor who leads ahead of Jones, followed by Falconer. It's a 1-2-3 for DCW, then James Mead. Right now for Snack & Sons sits in 4th place. That's all elite drivers. Then we come to your pro leader for Chaps Motorsport, Hayden Armour, ahead of his teammate James Paisley Knight. And it's Mav Garner for the SimRacing Collective Esports, third of the pros, ahead of Max Wheeler. And then from the three-wheeler racing drive, it's to his teammate in elite of Harvey Wheeler, the youngster, of course, by the youngest drivers on the grid, although I'm not quite sure of his age, and I don't think it's appropriate that we try to figure it out. Safeguarding and all that, very important part of motorsports. But meanwhile, this is a very important part of this race. And for Patrick Falconer, it's all gone wrong when it was looking okay. But right now in the night, it's gone all the way to the back of the field. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but there's damage on that Ferrari 296. And the 196 driver right now trying to get it back together if he can. But that's not the way he wanted to go whatsoever. So right now, Patrick Falconer's got to get his head down. He has a fast spare available, but he won't come into the pits if he can help it, because otherwise that will force him onto a 2-stop race. And that's the last thing you want, is an extra pit stop when you don't need one. But meanwhile, James Paisley Knight finding out the hard way how quick Harvey Wheeler can be, as Harvey Wheeler goes from inside to outside through the S's and E towards the hairpin. Oh, goodness me, that's a little bit firm. And in he's going to collect his teammates, Max Wheeler. And it's going to cause a big traffic jam there going in towards the hairpin. And well, there are multiple elements to that. I think Max Wheeler waited to use the door that Harvey Wheeler created. James Paisley Knight came across there, seeing that a move was going to be made by the Audi, drive 3 wide behind as well. And suddenly Patrick Falconer does a 2-for-1 special there, where he knows it's the Amazon Prime sales are still on. And well, he went for a 2-for-1 and he got it there. Well, that was definitely a cheap way of getting some moves. Well, he'll be very happy to be cost effective with that one. But as they make their way down towards the next quarter, coming in towards turn number 11, here comes Janchik looking up the inside versus Hunter. A little bit too far back, however, and the privateer not quite able to make the move stick. He's trying for it, as we do see Max Wheeler battling side by side Patrick Falconer, having to defend here versus the DCW Racing Ferrari. But around the outside to inside, Falconer on a very tight line into turn 14, but he'll get that done. The Yorkshire team, Sheila Benjamin Hunter, now going on for a bit of progress. But as they drag race the way down the start for the straight, the Snack and Sons driver will definitely, when I see that team name in Yorkshire tier in the side, that definitely makes me thirsty, if not hungry. He's going up the inside of Janchik here. Can he get this done? And the answer will be yes, he can. Janchik being quite respectful there and just letting that go, knowing there's still plenty of distance in this race. But Janchik looks back onto the inside here. They've got a good little scrap building between these two. And on the inside he goes now to Janchik, looking for the return move of Benjamin Hunter. And they're trying to recreate essentially a battle that took place in Super GT back in 2019 between an Acura NSX, or a Honda NSX as it would have been badged in the Japanese series, albeit the NSX actually made by the American division of Honda of Acura. Little known facts about the Mark II model compared to the Mark I, which was born in Japan, whereas the Mark II model was born in America, was the battle between an Acura NSX and also a Nissan GTR Evo model, an incredible side-by-side battle for almost the entirety of a lap here at it's the Motegi Resort Motegi, and will definitely worth checking out on YouTube after today's broadcast if you haven't seen it. It's one of the best clips, one of the most viral clips of all motorsport history in the modern era. But meanwhile, as we do see Harvey Wheeler staying very close to the back of Benjamin Hunter, and Snack and Sunstrider couldn't quite find his way to stay alongside the Audi in front of Janchik, but definitely staying well in touch there. And well, as Janchik would say right now, and his livery would say, he's got to catch them all. And well, he's passed one of them. He's now got to catch another 5 drivers he wants to win today and fill up what would be, well, it wouldn't be his Pokédex, would it? It would be his race index instead. But Wesley Van Rens finds James Paisley Knight for close company behind as they come down into the braking zone here. Well, no move being made. Paisley Knight taking his time, and I think also trying to shoulder some damage to the car as a result of that contact with Max Wheeler. Speaking of which, we will get you a replay of that shortly, ladies and gentlemen, but we are staying firmly in the grips of your live racing just for now, as Harvey Wheeler looks to go on the attack here versus Benjamin Hunter, and they come towards the end of lap number 3. But onto another lap they go, and Richard Simnor blasting his way through the open 2 quarters, trying to drop Andy Jones a little bit, and James Mead a bit further back is now starting to feel a bit of pressure from Hayden Ahmed as the Snack and Sons driver, and well, he's feeling pressure from 2 pros. And well, just to remind you, for the uninitiated for this season, drivers score points based on their class finish position, only their class finish position. So it doesn't matter if you're a pro driver and you beat every one of the elites, you could win the race overall, and definitely you would be getting what would be a round of applause from everyone, but you won't be getting any bonus points for it. This is a series whereby it's all about class position, and therefore that always has a bit of intrigue. Do you battle drivers of another class, or do you let them go? But only the driver, of course, will know what is best to do and what is not best to do, and that's where all the excitement comes in with regards to class racing. Even if they're all in the same type of machinery and they're all BOP together the same, we don't have slower cars for the second of our classes in each of our splits. They're all running the horsepower that's available on iRacing as per the standard iRacing balance of performance, but it always adds that intrigue there and knowing who to fight and who not to on the night. But meanwhile, as the fighting calms down for a brief moment, we take a trip back in time to the start of the race. And this is how all the racing got underway. And as it did so, it was Richard Simnor who took us green. And what a start it was for Simnor as he roared his way down towards turn of 1. Went just like that, because they have to go on green or 1 second afterwards. As he made his way in towards the open bend, the whole field fanned out there, 3 wide in the mid-pack. And we got to see what was an absolute adventure start there for Max Wheeler. Make his way at the inside of pretty much the entirety of the pro class to take the lead of it for a brief moment. Until, of course, he did have Hayden Ahmed try to come back at him here in towards the braking zone for turn number 3. Ahmed looking one way then the other, went on the inside, and the door was open there, to be fair. I think Ahmed feeling a bit more confident in the car, but as they made their way so much out of turn number 4, it was a tiny touch there. A little bit of understeer for Ahmed, just sent Wheeler wide. wide, but I think he'll get away with that, to be fair. The stewarding, of course, will apply to this. Whilst this is a pre-season event, we are expecting a standard of racing, much like we will throughout the season, and well, I think they'll get away with that one, to be fair. It's an early contact. But taking a look on board from Max Wheeler's perspective, that race start was absolutely epic when he went green flag racing, and where you'll see all the field come together. Of course, Wheeler on that inside line, and as they did go green flag, when in the end absolutely nailed the start. You see Hayden Ahmed practically sleeping at the wheel by comparison. Not that he was, but Max Wheeler using the accelerational capabilities of that Audi on the inside, and Ahmed on the outside at that point has got nowhere ready to go. And Wheeler did try to squeeze into the space there of James Mead, but it was a little bit too far away as he then made his way down towards turn number 3. But we did have this instant, of course, or a couple of instants on lap number 2. This was the first one for James Mead, just taking a slight dip off track over through turn number 3 in towards 4. And in fact, no, he had to take evasive action. Let me correct myself there. That was the car of Patrick Falconer going very sideways. And well, no damage to the car, in fact. It looked like it based that camera angle and the way he was counter-steering the car to get it straight, but not quite so. In the end, just a small mistake, having big consequences. But then the big incident on lap number 2. This was the instant with Max Wheeler and James Pacey Knight. And well, Harvey Wheeler made his way around the outside, saw the door, was opened with Max Wheeler. It's a very tough one to call, that one from that camera angle. Can we get the on-board from what would be Max Wheeler's perspective? I think we can. No, in fact, we're going to get the rear shot from Harvey Wheeler's car. So, makes way out the corner. Does Pacey Knight chop across under braking here? It's a very difficult one to call. We see the aftermath, of course, which is Harvey Wheeler gets collected by his teammate. I do believe that's his dad, Max Wheeler, Harvey being his son. So I think there'll be a father-son word after that one. Of course, they'll both be wondering what happened there. But the big question mark will be, did James Pacey Knight cut across too soon, or did he cut across legitimately before the braking zone and before Max Wheeler decides to put on the brakes? But we only get those camera angles. We're not the stewards, ladies and gentlemen. We're just part of the commentary booth. But meanwhile, we also did have this on lap number 5, and this was only quite recently. This was Matt Hayden and Ahmed and Mav Garner having a side-by-side, making their way through turn number 9. That's a bit of lean there, and in the end, they both went to the barrier. They got caught at each other there, and I don't think there was any man of cement for Mav Garner. I think he got the power down, got caught over the front of the McLaren, and Hayden and Ahmed, unfortunately, forced the barrier there, and Mav Garner getting hooked on him to the point they couldn't separate. Well, that was definitely an unexpected partnership, and this is what it looked like on board from Mav Garner's perspective. So looking for the move here, he was putting the pressure on, went all in, got to the apex, and then got the power down, but there's a brief touch there, and that's what hooked the cars together, and then into the barrier just like that, and had to tow to the pits. But with that, we head back to live racing. And as we do come back, James Mead still comes to be in third, and one drive's found his way all the way from the back to the front of the Pro class. Where's he Van Rens? Well, it sometimes goes to show you just stay out of trouble and it could all come your way. But Harvey Wheeler and Benjamin Hunt are fighting, and here's Harvey Wheeler up the inside of Jan Janchik as he goes to the move. And well, this time he goes from outside to inside once again. Onto the brakes into the hairpin, and well, in the end, the Pokemon livery privateer held his ground, and Harvey Wheeler here definitely fired himself out to create some space as they make their way in towards turn number 10, and Janchik pulls out as we see a bit of a late run on the brakes there from Benjamin Hunter. I think he's more confident on the brakes than that BMW. The only point is the snack and sunshine at this point in time for all that confidence. He unfortunately cannot bulldoze his way through the Audi in front of him. Not that he plans to be fair, but that's always the fault. When you are in a bit of a battle in a chase like this, the concertina effect starts to become a thing, and the concertina effect, in layman's terms, you hear it all the time, particularly David Coulthard in Formula 1 commentary always talks about it, is the idea when you're running as a pack of cars very close together, the lead car has to brake at its standard braking point. The cars behind have to brake a little bit earlier than the one in front to make sure they don't go into the back of the car in front, because everybody is coming into a braking zone at a higher speed compared to the car in front of it because of the natural potency of what is slipstream or draft. Now, that's Formula 1, and you may be sat there thinking, well, that's Formula 1, Paul, that's open wheel racing, the premier open wheel racing, some would say. That doesn't apply in GT3 racing. Oh, it does, because these are road cars turned race cars, and the percentage is 20% road car, 80% race car, whereby they have to be based off a homologated machine. So you can buy yourself a BMW M4 on the road, albeit you won't be able to buy it in this spec. The closest thing you'll be able to buy on the road would be a BMW M4 CS, which is a car that tries to get as close as possible. It's a road legal track car to a degree, with carbon ceramic brakes, also a lot of lightning, etc. And you do have the same There's the Audi R8, also out there the Ferrari 296, albeit that does have a hybrid mated to its 6-cylinder turbo battery engine. And we also do have the likes of the Corvette Z06, a highly popular car, the C8 Stingray edition. And Will James Mead, one of the drivers driving the popular car, a very highly popular car in the USA and also quite popular here in the UK, intriguingly, albeit a very different spec in the UK available to the US. And, well, definitely seen as a bit of a blasphemous car as well, because those of you who are Corvette fans, you'll definitely know that Chevrolet always put the engine in the front of the Corvette. For the C8s, they did not. They put it behind the drive, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, knowing it was the more competitive formula, just like the blasphemous time. And if you may remember, when Porsche announced in GTE, the class that preceded GT3 in the World Endurance Championship, when they did announce that for their Porsche 911 RSR offering, they would be moving the engine from over the rear axle to in front of the rear axle, or instead in mid-engine rear-wheel drive, because that was the optimal configuration. Indeed, sometimes manufacturers have to break their rule books in order to get the best possible car, and all the results are proven. With TF Sport doing an absolutely brilliant job, indeed, Associated Teams doing a brilliant job in the Corvette in modern GT3 racing, and Porsche, of course, the kings to some degree in what was GT racing when they did introduce the Porsche 911 RSR, only then to be supplanted by the Corvette C8R GTE and the wonderful Ben Keating racing machine, of course, proving that age is just a number in if you want to be one of the best racers in the world in the GT machine. But meanwhile, Benjamin Hunter makes way onwards. We have lost Mav gone from this race, and he goes hunting after Jan Jančík again, still looking for a way in. These two were fighting earlier on, but right now they calm down for a bit. But it's a good little battle between these two. And the Snack and Sons driver here, I think now just playing a bit more of the passive game, a bit more of the wait and watch game rather than going on the attack. And the thought process here being, with regards to the fact that just waiting to see when you can get in. And, well, it's all going to be about now when he can find that right place. He wants to try and make a decisive move. I think that's the thing that Hunter's looking for. He doesn't want to end up in a continuous too wide unlike on lap 6. And obviously he doesn't enjoy it because he wants to make a break and try to then go hunting after Hayden Ahmed, who's had a big slip down the field as a result of his brush with Mav Gardner. Here he goes then, looking around the outside, and, well, Hunter can't quite find it there. Jančík covers him off. But remember, every time Jančík goes defensive, he leans a bit more on the outside front brake, and that increases a little bit of tyre degradation and just makes the car a little bit less steady. But here comes Hunter looking around the outside in towards the hairpin. Nice attempt here. That BMW a bit more docile on the brakes, a bit more agile on the brakes compared to its predecessor, whereby the original spec BMW M4 raced, of course, from 2022 through to 2024, seen as quite a heavy car on its front brakes, particularly on the iRacing balance points, whereas the car here, the Evo edition, a little bit more agile on the front brakes. Richard Simnor, meanwhile, well, he's finding Andy Jones is getting a bit closer here, so it might be some fuel saying the DCW racing drivers might be trying to work together here just to extend their opening stint, which is always a valid strategy, particularly when you've got a gap. And this will all be practice, of course, for when they do it in anger in a week's time. James Mead, 7 seconds behind, meanwhile. Well, he's fallen away from the top two, but he is setting personal bests out there. And in fact, that last lap for Mead, it was almost matching Andy Jones, who's currently the fastest driver out there, with 50.35 to Mead's 50.50, and Richard Simnor 50.86. So some lap times definitely evolving. And in terms of weather conditions here today, well, we can see we do have quite a hot track temperature. Now, to be fair, this time of year in Japan, as we do make our way towards the summer season, based on the calendar date we've used, typically, when you go racing in late spring into the summer, the humidity levels will be very high. It actually makes the circuit very challenging in Japan, whereby we do have currently an ambient temperature of 20 degrees centigrade, but the track temperature, 43 degrees centigrade, so double the ambient temperature. And what that does is it means the tyres will be very hot, the front brakes also risk getting quite hot, and it makes it quite uncomfortable in the car. It means the circuit actually becomes a bit of a proverbial ice rink, whereby it's so slippery out there, and the rubber that's laid down doesn't feel like it's really offering any grip. Might also be a reason why Benjamin Hunter right now is really struggling to get past Jančík, because every time he gets close, he gets a wall of dirty air, that aero wash coming off the back of the Audi, and it just prevents him from having that little bit of downforce he needs to be able to make a move. As the Ferrari breaks his way in towards the turn 10 hairpin, right now coming on through that corner, and Hunter's still there with him, and Jančík, to be fair, right now doing a fantastic job of holding on in their battle for 5th place in the Pro class. And Hunter, I think, might have to look more strategically rather than on track tactically if he wants to make this move happen sooner or later. Going on towards the end of their 9th tour of the circuit. Well, very shortly we will come pan to your pro leader, and there he is, Wesley Van Rens, whereas Patrick Falconer still following. Falconer on a bit of a recovery drive after his early spin. Wasn't aided in that adventure, just simply got it wrong. Now trying to get things right and try to catch back up to James Mead to make it a 1-2-3 for DCW Racing in the elite class today. Well, it's definitely going to be a bit of an aspiration, but with all aspirations, he's still got to do the work to close that gap down. And James Paisley Knight, 1.4 seconds behind the Chaps Motorsport driver, keeping Max Wheeler at bay for now, but Wheeler is catching back up again, and well, these have definitely seen the brunt of each other so far, and well, I suspect we'll see a bit more of a respectful moment between them. Not saying there was any disrespect, I think it was both drivers trying to fight for a space. It was always going to close, and in the end, there will be a bit of a contentious moment there, but I'm sure they'll talk about it after the race. You know, come back to Benjamin Hunter, all over the back of Yanchi. And you might be sat there now thinking, well, what's unique about SimRacing International from a racing perspective? Because many a league runs a GT3 league. One of the very unique parts we do have about this series, indeed all of our series, is the way we do stewarding. Now, a lot of championships, what they'll do with stewarding is essentially a driver submits an incident report. They'll say that this accident happened and I believe this driver was at fault, they crashed into me, etc. The way we do stewarding is we actually give both drivers, or all drivers involved in an incident that is submitted, the opportunity to have their say and also to politely debate the incident up to a point whereby what we actually do find 9 times out of 10 is that when you get both drivers, or all the drivers involved, talking to each other all in the same proverbial virtual room. We do this, of course, it's online racing, we can't all be in the same room physically together, but when you do get all the drivers together, everyone realises in the heat of the moment, tempers got frayed, and indeed everyone's started to see red, but once you're out of the car, we're all human beings, and suddenly what might seem quite a evil incident suddenly becomes actually something that's quite forgivable, and that's always a great thing when that does happen, and it really gets people and drives to see incidents in perspective, which doesn't always happen. As meanwhile, we see a perspective there, which is Yan Cheek goes a bit wide, and Benjamin Hunter literally following him in the wheel tracks there, goes even wider out the final corner and picks up an instant point for it. He's got to be careful of that as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. And right now, the 263 driver here in the Yorkshire Tea Stack and Sons car definitely looking to attack. And well, I can promise you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not paid by Yorkshire Tea to say their brand name every time I see the car. But I get the feeling right now they'll be asking for royalties at this point. But meanwhile, back to Richard Simdor. No Yorkshire Tea for him. I think it's just coffee and energy drinks today as he makes way out towards the run of turn number 8 into 9. And as he does so, Andy Jones still very much with him. But we do come back to Hunter looking for a move. It's been some time brewing, this one has. And in the end, is he going to be able to get it done? He's let it steep. And in the end, he's successfully going to make that happen. He moves over to 5th place in the pro class, 10th overall. And now Yan Cheek goes back on the attack as we ride on board the front bumper of the 245. As he comes through the S6, of course, this is the territory for the Audi. These quarters, medium speed quarters and low speed quarters, are where the Audi does so very well. It is the Evo 2 model here, of course. 2 evolutions of the car that started its GT3 racing career in 2015. The first evolution arriving in late 2018, and the second model arriving in 2022. And if you're sat there right now thinking, well, why did Audi need to evolve the car? Well, the first one was a number of changes of aerodynamics, as that's going to be a move up the inside there, as Benjamin Hunter goes way too deep into the hairpin, and now Yan Cheek is going to look for the run down towards turn number 11 here, and can he win on the brakes versus Hunter? Well, it's going to be the last of the late breakers here, and Yan Cheek in the end backs off just at the last moment, knowing on that inside line there's a lot less retardation force in the car, and there's a lot less grip as well, and he would be going straight on, so he does decide to let that go. But as he does so, well, we do come back to the talking point of which is the evolution of this car. With the Evo 1 model, a major overhaul of the aero for the car, particularly with regards to around the rear of the car, the rear wing and also the rear profile. And then we did see with the Evo 2 car, the introduction of the little vortices on the front that you can see, the doubling of the vortices, plus also some other aerodynamic refinements, all for the purposes of medium and high speed stability. But meanwhile, this Ferrari 296, Wesley Van Rens, the only thing that is looking stable right now is potentially his position in the middle of the road. But James Paisley Knight makes it 3 wide there, because that's going to be Patrick Val on the outside, and it's going to be Paisley Knight on the inside. Do they get the reverse Moses manoeuvre? They're going to try it, but Paisley Knight overcooks the corner. He blocks off there. Patrick Val going to try and go around the outside, and Sonny here because Wesley Van Ren's back, but Paisley Knight seals the door just in the nick of time. Onto the braking zone they go here, and that's going to be Falcon up the inside as Max Wheeler looks around the outside in turn. So right now it's battling back and forth between our pros and elite drivers here, but it's primarily pros with one wolf in sheep's clothing there for Patrick Falconer. Oh, that's Wesley Van Rens diving up the inside there, and well, the Irish Philip Falconer's not going to be too happy about that as he gets turned around, but thankfully they're able to keep it under control. and, well, not collected anybody else, but he won't be too pleased about that. The first spin was his own volition. The second spin, however, far from it. I think he was turned a little bit there by some contact. We'll get a replay of that. But James Paisley Knight through all that episode. The Chaps Motorsport Drive now returns to lead the Pro Class here. And, well, he'll be very happy with that, with Wesley Van Rens falling behind, but Max Wheeler going on the attack, and so is Hayden Ahmed. Remember, of course, Hayden Ahmed involved in that incident with Mav Gardner, who has retired on the race due to the issue with the car. And, well, as they make their way through turn 12 into 13, I think we've got an even bigger battle to grow. We're not even quite at the halfway point yet. We've still got 7 minutes before we do officially get to halfway, but the battles are building up, and that's before we do consider strategy. Those 70% fuel tanks, there are no mandatory pit stop requirements. If you think you can no-stop the race, you are more than welcome to try it as a driver, but the 70% fuel tank normally does mandate 1 pit stop for at least fuel, and changing tyres normally becomes a bit of an optional situation. But, of course, oh, goodness me, as that's going to be a spin there for Wesley Van Rens. He comes out of turn 2. The Revolution 3 race, definitely making a bit of an unfortunate revolution there, and he tries to rejoin, but goes again. I don't believe it. He just avoids the barrier, and I think that's where he's tried to rejoin and get the power down, but unfortunately not having the steering wheel straight, and suddenly what it's actually done is it's caused the car to buck its way back towards the barrier once again. And of course, rejoin off of the grass. You've really got to let all 4 tyres rejoin the tarmac before you really get the power down. These cars run the best part of around 500 to 550 brake horsepower over the rear wheels, regardless of the drivetrain. They're all rear-wheel drive, which is where the engine is located. But that 500 to 550 brake horsepower, put through wheels, even the traction control, where you change the surface between some tyres, between tarmac and grass. And suddenly you're going to very quickly find out that some tyres, the ones on the grass, are spinning with less grip than the ones that are on the tarmac, and that's what kicks the car back around. But Harvey Wheeler here now trying to get into the game, the three-wheeler racing driver, making a sandwich with the villain being Hayden Ahmed's Chaps Motorsport McLaren. But can he find a way past the man who took pro pole? Well, here it goes in towards turn number 10. No way in at the moment for the BMW driver. And the BMW M4 Evo, also a very interesting car in its development, with the BMW M4 arriving in 2022 and the Evo arriving in 2025. And for those sat there wondering, well, what's the difference between the original and the Evo? It's a slight amount of aerodynamic refinement and also a revision to the suspension geometry of the car. The only way you can tell the aerodynamic refinement on this machine, funny enough, is the wing mirrors, whereby they've actually had quite a bit of carbon fibre shaved off of them. The profile of those wing mirrors has been reduced, and that is reflected on the road car with the 2025 facelift of the BMW M4, but otherwise it's all underneath the bodywork, which is where the change happens, the Evolution model. And he makes his way in towards turn 1 once again. As he does so, Harvey Wheeler right now staying close to Hayden Ahmed. He's still got some work to do here to find his way through. We do have Wesley Van Rens into pit lane. There's your confirmation after his spin. I suspect coming in here to cool down, get the tyres cooled down, perhaps change a tyre or two as well, and also get the team to look over the car, see if there's any damage as he puts his fuel in. But as the car does park up, 35 minutes still to go. And right now, Richard Sinner and Andy Jones still close company for each other in the DCW Racing 1-2 machines. And you might be sat there thinking right now, is that 2 Ferraris or 2 Corvettes? It's neither. It's a Corvette leading a Ferrari, although you'd be forgiven for thinking they're both the same car, because the aero profiles of these cars when put in a wind tunnel is very similar. Now, I'm not saying Corvette have copied Ferrari's homework, but the fact of the matter is these cars are very similar, albeit their engine power plant really makes a big difference. That Corvette being a V8 and actually aspirated 5.5 litre V8, if my memory serves me correctly. Meanwhile, we do have Andy Jones with his turbo-supplemented 6-cylinder in the Ferrari. Ferrari, of course, having a V8 in the form of the Ferrari 488 Evo prior to this GT3, and they transitioned to the 488. From the 488, I should say, to the 296 as of 2022, and well, not quite the same car, but still a very much loved car for its potency out of the circuit, and particularly enjoyed by Emil Frey Racing as well as the official Ferrari teams. But as we do see Andy Jones getting a little bit closer this time, still more to go for him, and we'll just eagerly await an opportunity here to perhaps put one over Richard, his teammate, but I think it might be in the pit lane where he tries to get it done. He'll try and fuel save and undercut him or overcut him either way. James Paisley Knight bringing drivers to the party behind him, Max Wheeler and Hayden Ahmed for close company. But as they build up to the next fight, or the next chapter in this story, well, we take a look back at one of the big moments, including what happened to Patrick Falconer on lap 12. So this was Falconer battling with Wesley Van Rens as they made the way in towards turn number 9. Onto the brakes they went. Van Rens went quite hot into that braking zone. And well, Falconer, I think, tried to get the power down, and that's what turned him around there. Can we get the on board from Falconer's perspective? We can. Let's listen in closely. And I think it was a combination of a bit of contact there from Wesley Van Ren's coming in, but also many of you may have noticed the gravel down the outside of the corner as a result of what was the incident between Harvey Wheeler and Max Wheeler earlier on. And I think that is what caused Patrick Falconer to spin. It was the rear right tyre trying to grip up on gravel. This is what it looked like on board from Wesley Van Ren's perspective. Then went all in for it. Let's listen again. And you can definitely hear the contact there as Van Ren's had to fight with a bit of power oversteer of his own as well. So both drives are in a bit of difficulty, but it was all preceded, of course, by the absolute epic battle at the start of lap 12. And this was, at the time, Patrick Falconer and Wesley Van Ren's fighting side by side. And James Paisley Knight said, well, why don't I make it 3 wide? And well, I think Wesley Van Ren's looking for his right to his left, thinking, well, that doesn't normally go into one braking zone. And Paisley Knight definitely showed he's not afraid to go in for these moves. And right now, I think everyone's going to be looking at this broadcast afterwards, out of all the drivers, and means themselves, right, James Paisley Knight, don't give him an inch, because he will take a mile. In fact, he'll take the entire street. And he makes his way down towards turn number 7, and well, getting that move done absolutely succinctly there. Lovely move from James Paisley Knight. But then we did have this Wesley Van Ren's a lap later, and this was the Revolution 3 racing drive coming out of turns 1 and 2. Got the power down, and the rear of the car just simply said no. And I think that's hot tyres at the rear, plus also a lack of grip on the track surface. With that, we do come back to your live racing. And as we do, 32 minutes still remain, and we still do have 11 out of 12 starters out there. Wesley Van Ren's the only one who's pitted so far. And as soon as I say that, Patrick Falconer comes into pit lane for DCW Racing, and this will be essentially to go for an undercut to try and give himself a chance to close back up to the field after a bit of a dismal end to his first stint. The car parked up there as James Paisley Knight, meanwhile, well, he's got plenty of friends behind him. I say friends, I think really we should be saying that rivals behind him in the form of Max Wheeler, and also Hayden Ahmed, who is a friend. He is a teammate there, of course, but I get the feeling Hayden would like what would be that lead back in the pro class, and therefore I don't think they'll be as friendly as they will be in what will be a points-paying setting in a week's time. As they're coming out of the corner right now, well, Hayden Ahmed's got some work to do first. He's got to find his way past Max Wheeler as we ride aboard the 227, looking down over the front of the McLaren 720S machine. And taking a bit of grass there into the camera. That coming from Max Wheeler. But definitely right now, Hayden Ahmed has been a very patient driver in this race after what happened towards the start. And decided not to rush to get back up there. And sometimes that's the way you've got to drive. But you've got to let the race come back to you. When you know you've got the pace, a bit of traction control kicking in there. That's why he didn't get the best of exits. You will see the car slightly wobble, and the power will have been neutralised over the rear wheels. And when the traction control comes in, it does normally cut off the throttle entirely or reduce it to a point whereby essentially you lose a lot of acceleration. One of the interesting things about these GT3 machines, from car to car, some of these machines just have a traction control setting whereby it normally goes from 1 to 12, whereby the lower the number, typically what ends up being the least interaction of the traction control. Now, you do have that setting, and then there's a predefined amount of cut on the traction control as Hayden Ahmed makes way into the pit lane, gets himself out of this order, and also by coming into the pits, gives himself a chance to get an early fast repair as he makes way. And oh, that's not been the best of entries into the pit lane there for Hayden Ahmed. I think he's got caught up towards the barrier. Didn't quite see what happened there. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, and we'll hold the fort with regards to talking about traction control settings until a little bit later on, because right now, well, we are in the crunch period of this race because we're Hayden Ahmed into the pit lane. Well, now we do have the battle between Paisley Knight and Wheeler. Part 2 of this battle, of course. Part 1 end up with both cars that end up making contact. But what will Part 2 have in store here today? Max Wheeler this time does not have Harvey Wheeler, his teammate Free Wheeler Racing, leading the way into this battle. So it will be a bit more straight up fight between these two. Not to be unfair at all about Max Wheeler, but that was the circumstance at the time. But here he now wants to try and take on his rival one-on-one. As we do have Hayden Ahmed leaving the pit lane after a 14.5 second stop. Fast repair has been used up as well. And he's got ahead of Patrick Falconer and Wesley Van Ren. Just ahead of Patrick Falconer by 1.5 seconds. So Falconer's undercut not quite working out there, but definitely gaining some time as a result of it. As in fact we do see James Paisley Knight open up a bit of a gap there coming through turns 7, 8 and in towards 9. So looking a bit more comfortable for now, but runs wide out of the hairpin. That's not going to help him. Suddenly Max Wheeler will gain a bit of confidence here. He'll get back within 3.5 attempts as they now make the way in towards the right hand of this battle, going back and forth. Richard Simnor and Andy Jones, they both go another lap. They decide to go on to lap number 18. Neither driver comes in as of yet, but Andy Jones right now definitely following in the wheel tracks there of Richard Simnor. And what's very noticeable right now, I think Jones is definitely playing the game, which is just stay glued to the back room, save the fuel, save the tyres, and well, you'll save your chances of taking up the win. As meanwhile, Max Wheeler doesn't have that luxury. Around aboard the three-wheeler racing driver, and I thought he might have thrown the car to the pit lane there, but no, he decides to stay out. And of course, a lot of drivers will go for the overcut, or they'll go as long as possible. And if you're sat there thinking, well, surely an undercut's got to be valuable, it's very interesting. When you speak to a lot of drivers in the GT3 category in iRacing and their experience of it, they will always say the same thing, which is you want to race with the lightest possible car. Now, you're probably sat there thinking, well, that's obvious. The lighter the car, the quicker it's going to be. But the point being, it does seem as though with the GT3s they're currently modelled on iRacing, the emphasis is more towards if you can keep the car light, you gain more lap time than you do through the undercut strategy. The undercut really requires the cars that are in front of you or around you when you do come into the pit lane, it requires them to battle to lose the time. So for Harvey Wheeler and James Paisley Knight, given the fact they're only battling each other right now, an undercut may not actually be the key to victory, but for Hayden Ahmed, it will have been, because these two start to fight side by side. Given they were only 4 attempts ahead of Hayden Ahmed at the time, suddenly he might be able to bring himself right into that mix and gain the time and get the positions off of them. So that's where the undercut can prove powerful. It really does require you to be in a long pack of cars that are itching to fight each other, and you've got to be the first one to take the gamble, which is, I don't want to be part of that fight on the road, I want to do my fighting in the pit lane. And that's where the risk is, because of course when you do pit early, you don't get to see your rivals anymore unless you've got somebody on the pit wall acting as what would be your spotter or your team principal, who can tell you what the current lap times are, tell you how much time you're gaining, give you deltas. Indeed, it's impressive how a lot of team principals and spotters do all that information, using all the lap times, crunching it all together. The mathematics behind it is sensational, to the point they do have AI models out there which do it as well. Well, you do see it on a lot of sponsored real-life broadcasts, for example in GT World Challenge Europe, and also in Formula 1, where you will see AWS or Amazon Web Services. They do provide all the analytics and insights with regards to what is essentially undercut versus overcut predictions, and it's always a prediction, because until we do see both cars back together on circuit, you never quite know which way it's going to go. We're coming down, Harvey Wheeler still on the attack here with his teammate of Max Wheeler just in front, and I think at this point for Harvey it's more following in the footsteps of his dad as he makes one around. I'm waiting to see when he can get involved, although I get the feeling right now if they were communicating to each other, it might be father saying to son, no, I want this one, thank you very much. And well, as they come down in towards turn 3, I think Max was potentially going to let Harvey go, but decided against it at last possible one. I think Harvey's saying to him, no, just stay on your pace right now, let's just maintain this rhythm instead. But Patrick Falconer, after taking that pit stop and some repair work to the car, well, he's now on the back of Hayden Ahmed. He's definitely closing on Ahmed, who had a bit of a difficult entry into the pit lane. And in fact, we do get a quick look back to what exactly happened to Hayden Ahmed with his pit entry. And this was coming on through the corners, of course, chasing after Max Wheeler and James Paisley Knight at the time. Made his way on through, and did he get it wrong here in pit entry? The answer is going to be he did. We thought he got it slightly wrong. The way the camera inflected didn't show it right, and in the end, well, he had to also stamp on the brakes there because he was worried about speed into the pit lane. He's lost about 2.5 seconds as a result of that. Could have been far worse, to be fair. He's got away with that quite noticeably. We do have a black flag for Wesley Van Rens has come back into the pit lane, and I believe that will be for instant points. We do have 16 instant points in the drive-through, and well, instant points down initiated are picked up through what is 3 different circumstances in iRacing. Firstly, for going off track or breaching track limits, that's 1 instant point. Should you lose control of your car, so essentially you spin the car or you turn it enough away from what is the direction of travel, it's considered loss of car control. That's 2 instant points. And should you make contact with another driver out there, regardless of whether it's your fault or not, indeed iRacing does not discriminate with regards to that, it's an automated system, you pick up 4 instant points. So you do the mathematics, you pick up 16 off tracks, which is quite easy to do over the course of an hour. Or you pick up about 4 off tracks, there are 3 contacts with other drivers, suddenly you're facing a drive-through penalty just like that. Pick up 10 more, you'll be disqualified from the race, and that is no joke in terms of the fact, as soon as you head to that instant point limit, your car will be forced to the pit lane and you'll be out of the race. We did see quite a few disqualifications in the Master Split last season with what was a much more stringent set of instant point limits of 14 and 19. I think a lot of drivers will be breathing a sigh of relief. They have got a little bit more flexibility, but to be fair, if you've picked up a drive-through, that's normally enough to make sure you don't go all the way to picking up a disqualification. But James Paisley Knight, well, he's definitely disqualified himself in this battle for the pro win right now, with Max Wheeler still there behind. But Harvey Wheeler now definitely playing the rear gunner here, but for how long will he play that role? And the same you could say for what would be your leaders with DCW Racing, elite and overall. Richard Stimnor still leading, he's led every lap of this race so far, and Andy Jones are there. And I get the feeling they'll be on the radio to each other right now. I think they'll be winding each other up a little bit as they race, and I think trying to get into each other's heads. They always do, to be fair, and well, definitely some serious races may not be on right now, but they could be on in what will be a week's time, but we'll see where's it to be. as they come through the right-hander. Now, of course, we will be introducing all of our 60 drivers, or the majority of them, who do turn up to round number 1. We might be missing a couple there, but that's why we do have a drop score over the season. Over the course of rounds 1 through to 9, one of those rounds may be drops, but we do not allow the final round of the season to be dropped. So if you don't make the final round, you are going to lose a maximum score of 100 points out of that one, as simple as that. But meanwhile, let's not lose track of the score here in the Battle for the Pro lead at the moment. And what lap times is Hayden Ahmed doing, I hear you ask? Well, he's currently lapping 2 tenths slower than the pair of Paisley Knight and Wheeler, so he's still got some ground to be found. And the two of them make their way on another lap as Harvey Wheeler just waits, watches and listens. But meanwhile, coming back to Andy Jones, he's definitely putting some pressure on there, Richard Simnor, but gets a bit too close through turn number 3 and loses out there in the run. So he falls a bit further back after he was looking threateningly, menacingly in towards turn number 3 under braking, but it didn't quite work out. And then we do come back to Paisley Knight, who's definitely got the Wheeler found, the 3-wheeler racing machines all over the back of it like a bad rush at this point. If they were any closer, I think they would be getting rushes, but as they make their way in towards turn number 3, Paisley Knight got a bit defensive there. The Chap Motorsport driver now feeling that pressure as he rolls off the corner, and well, something just tells me for the Chaps Motorsport driver soon something is going to have to give way here, but I don't think he wants to give up track position. I think his thought process may be, if he has to fight, this actually works out for his teammate of Hayden Ahmed, who will be able to gain race time. So it could be a bit of a noble sacrifice here for Paisley Knight. Defend, cost yourself and the Wheeler race machine's time, and in turn, actually what you do is you get Hayden Ahmed back into this fight. You perhaps even get him ahead and into lead of the pro class. Well, if so, that'd definitely be a bit of magic being pulled off there on strategy. But one battle we saw earlier on that definitely went the distance was Benjamin Hunter versus Jan Janchik. And well, here is the Snack & Sons car making its way away from the Pokemon livery machine. The priority of Janchik, and right now in his Audi, just slowly falling off of Benjamin Hunter, little by little. But the pace difference between the two of them for the last few laps has been quite close, to be fair. And that gap has just gradually and quite organically grown in the end. But Janchik definitely put up an absolutely brilliant defence. Well, he's definitely going to be one to watch as the season goes on in that Audi. I suspect he may not, based on his pace at least at the moment, be picking up wins, but he definitely will be winning a lot of hearts, particularly if he can nail some top 5s out there, because he has got the top 5 racer spirit. But as he comes towards the end of his 21st tour of the circuit, under race conditions, well, we are still awaiting plenty of pit stops, as we do say hello there to FTMG52. So 12 racers, indeed a little bit low attendance today. Do keep in mind, of course, this is a pre-season event. This is entirely optional, and also with the heat waves on the European continent at the moment, a lot of drivers, I do believe the best part of about 20 drivers declaring they weren't going to make this by default just because how hot it is, and also I get the feeling a few drivers on vacation at the moment, and we're looking forward to round number 1 in a week's time. But to be fair, whilst we've only had 12 drivers make this one, we have had plenty of excitement over the distance so far, and there may be more to come, as Harvey Wheeler now on the back of Max Wheeler. And well, again, Max going very tight there, brings it to the outside. The Harvey right now following his dad so closely at the moment, and well, I think for Harvey Wheeler this is an exercise in patience here, and also what is going to happen if he does go for a move on his dad, which way is his dad going to defend, and such forth. I'd be interested to see which way it goes as they make their way in towards the SS sequence, left into right. And right now Harvey Wheeler definitely putting on a good job here, being very patient, but surely a pit stop's got to give at some point, and the full process will be that he will gain as a result of the pit stop rather than lose out. As the trio here stay together for now, and well, it's in towards turn 10 they go. Max Wheeler defending a little bit there into the braking zone, and meanwhile Richard Simnor comes in from the lead of the race, so he will not lead every lap of this because Andy Jones goes another one, but we expected Andy Jones would go longer given the fact he's been saving fuel for some time. As he makes his way into turn 1 and Simnor being about to be serviced, James Mead carries on as well. I'm going a little bit deeper into this race compared to Simnor. And what will happen with James Paisley Knight? Will he come in now with a bit of a gap there to the 3-wheeler race machines? The answer is no. Will Max Wheeler come in? No, neither does Harvey. So they all stay out just that little bit longer. We'll extend that stint on that 70% fuel tank. But as Simnor has completed his service, he makes way out. Is he going to come out behind the trio battling for what was 4th place overall? He is. This is not where he wants to be. In fact, he comes up side by side with Harvey Wheeler. And for Richard Simnor right now, this is a bit of a nightmare on strategy because that's going to force him to have to fight his way through. As meanwhile, Jan Janchik comes into the pit lane. Unfortunately for him, he has picked up a black flag for what is an illegal pit entry. Here comes Harvey Wheeler to the inside of Richard Simnor. He does not want Simnor between him and the battle in front. But Simnor right now doesn't want this battle because this is going to cost him time to Andy Jones. Jones. So right now, both drivers have got aspirations, but they're conflicting aspirations at that. This is not the way they want it to go whatsoever. And well, suddenly, it is going to be on the line here. Simnor, in the end, does get to the inside into turn number 5. But it's going to cost him plenty of time, and that time is going to hurt him considerably. Meanwhile, Benjamin Hunter 10 seconds behind. And he's Snack and Son's drive right now, enjoying a bit of a comfortable drive as he continues to push onwards, trying to make sure that he does not fall into the clutch of Yanchik, but he won't if he hears that Yanchik has picked up what is a drive-through penalty for speeding through the pit lane. But as Richard Simnor finally clears Harvey Wheeler, we saw that happen only moments ago. Well, now Max Wheeler's already 1.4 seconds up the road. So that's going to give him quite a bit of safety. As I'm hearing in my ear, we've had a bit of a moment of 4 with Patrick Falcon on the road. But we'll come to that shortly as Andy Jones comes into pit lane. There's Yanchik parked up at the moment, the car being serviced. And I think it actually might be a stop and hold penalty for speeding into the pit lane rather than a drive-through penalty. Stop and hold, technically a little bit less punishing in theory because you only need to come into the pits once. But of course, it does mean it's a much longer pit stop as Jones comes in. And well, now his car being serviced as well. But as it is being serviced, where is Richard Simnor? Well, James Paisley Knight goes another lap. Max Wheeler comes in. There's a Paisley right now, and also me, the Jameses, are definitely going the longest to everybody. But here's Richard Simnor. Where's Andy Jones? There he is. I think this is going to be very close between the two of them. There goes Paisley Knight. Where's Simnor? Simnor's at the bottom of your picture, and Andy Jones just comes out ahead there. It's by a tiny margin, literally by a fraction of a second. But Andy Jones takes the effective lead of this race on strategy, as right now we're still expecting a couple of pit stops to come. I'm going to show you the number of pit stops that have been served by drivers all the time in Tower. But right now, Andy Jones is at the head of those who pitted, taking that strategic stop, and it's all worked out. But going for the overcut, 1 extra lap by comparison, and it's all paid off with Richard Simnor coming out into a battle that he didn't want to be part of, and fighting there with Harvey Wheeler has just cost him the time. But as they come in towards turn number 5, we'll now have to see which way this battle goes. As meanwhile, Harvey Wheeler, well, he has made his pit stop, and he has cleared Max Wheeler and Hayden Armid there, intriguingly. But with that, so Max Wheeler's just come out ahead of Hayden Armid, and that battling with James Paisley Knight has actually cost the three-wheeler racing team quite a bit of time. Where's Paisley Knight going to come out in all this? That is the big question we need an answer to. Has Paisley Knight done enough here to count your effective pro leader, or is it going to be Max Wheeler? And how much of the tank has Hayden Armid got here to attack? Given the fact he pitted a lot earlier, he pitted on lap 16, whereas by right now we have seen Max Wheeler pit on lap 23. Paisley Knight surely then is pitting on lap 24. And he has got the growing presence of Andy Jones and Richard Simnor behind. He won't want to trip over them, so I think he'll be coming to the pits at the end of this lap. Otherwise, he's at risk, essentially, of falling into a fight that he wants no part of. It's not on his lap, really, to fall into that fight. As James Mead comes in from the lead of the race, the Snack and Sons driver, who was running third in Elite and Oval at the time, before the pit stop started. Well, I think this is going to be a straightforward stop to send him back out to the final spot of the Elite podium. Paisley Knight, meanwhile, makes his way under the Oval, and as he does so, does he come in? Yes, he does, the Chaps Motorsport driver, and he will be the last of your pit stops to happen. We have, unfortunately, lost Yanchik from this race, and I do believe he's coming to the pit lane after that black flag. And so Andy Jones leads going into the final 15 minutes. And a final lap with it. He's ahead of Richard Simnor. It's a 1-2 for DCW Racing, but which order will they be in? James Mead starts to leave the pit lane. As he does, he returns to the race in third, over on in Elite. But what about Paisley Knight? He parks up there. Car waiting to be serviced. The fuel going in. Harvey Wheeler, well, he's one fault as the three-wheeler racing driver makes his way through turn 12 into 13. But the big question, Max Wheeler, where will he be versus Paisley Knight, who's leaving his pit stall? It's a 13.5 second stop there for Paisley Knight. In fact, I think he's going to come out a long way ahead there of Max Wheeler, and in fact, he's jumped Max Wheeler massively. How about that? The Chaps Motorsport driver there gaining 5 seconds on Max Wheeler. I don't believe it. Well, that goes to show you that sometimes it all comes down to strategy, and James Paisley Knight there perfecting the strategy. And when in terms of end-to-end pit time, it was the best part 4 seconds quicker than Max Wheeler. So I think Max Wheeler having a bit of a poor pit stop, in fact. That's put him on the collision course for Hayden Armid. And Paisley Knight right now will be wondering, where is everybody? And the answer is, they've all had slower pit stops than him. But Paisley Knight, definitely your pro leader at the moment. But is he going to be the pro leader come the end? We'll have to wait and see. Andy Jones, Richard Simnor together. And, well, here comes Simnor looking up the inside, but decides better of it as they come in towards turn number 10. And well, through that right-hander they go. And now Simnor definitely getting the joys of trying to go on the attack here. He's been leading for so long, but then now he finds himself with a new leader in front of him. Albeit, let's see the shoe that's on the other foot here. Does he prove himself to prefer being the hunter or the hunted? We'll we'll wait and see as it looks up the inside, goes into the braking zone, 2 wide they enter, and as they make the way out here, SimRacing makes a clean move, a little bit of sideways motion there for Andy Jones's Ferrari, and that slight bit of tail happiness there in the Ferrari just costing the traction he needed to keep the battle going towards turn 12, and Richardson takes the lead this race as Andy Jones goes very wide there, almost perfecting the rallycross exit to the next lap. And will Simnor lead. Jones follows, but it may not be over yet. As James Mead, 12.5 seconds behind here, hopes to catch up for Snack and Sons. He's got a bit of a way to go if he wants to be able to get that job done. But meanwhile, Hayden Ahmed haven't gone for the undercut. It hasn't quite paid off in the end as much as he would have liked it to. So therefore, right now, he's following Max Wheeler, hoping he can find a way to the battle for that second place. The chap's motorsport driver here, he's definitely going to have to work some to chase down Max Wheeler, who's looking very comfortable in that Audi, it must be said. Although I think for Max, he'll be a bit frustrated that he's lost so much time to Paisley Knight. Although saying that last lap as Paisley Knight crossed the timeline, a 55.91. Max Wheeler, a 51.34. Of course, perspective needs to be taken here in the fact that Paisley Knight had left the pit lane, so lap time's always going to be elongated. But the reality is, Paisley Knight has lost a second on that outlap, so that has cost him a lot of time and puts him at risk of being caught by Max Wheeler and Hayden Ahmed at this point. We'll have to see what the game plan's going to be there for Paisley Knight and whether he's got the pace to hold on for just that little bit longer. Meanwhile, looking back to Patrick Falconer, he's definitely one of the faster drives out there. In fact, his pace at the moment is as good. Oh, as he slides loose there. Commentator's curse, as soon as I go to praise his pace, it all goes wrong for the Irishman. I don't quite believe it, ladies and gents, but he's definitely been caught out with several corners. The Ferrari drivers are really been caught out here today as he brings some gravel with him onto the circuit. And, well, that's not going to help grip levels of the exit at turn 4. Patrick Falconer making a small mistake, but it has big consequences. He loses the place to Benjamin Hunter. That's the only place he loses there, with Yan Yanchi retiring from the race. And we take a look back at what exactly happened to Falconer. He's made his way through the corner as he did so. Goes to get the power down through turn before. And well, in the end, the rear of the car just simply says no. I think the steering wheel and the throttle just too much applied equally. And that saw the car go round. This is what it looked like on board. He's made his way through the bend. Let's listen in. And the rear of the car letting go as he's making his way towards the apex point of the corner there. And I think that was too much throttle for the amount of steering angle and the grip of the tarmac. Easy mistake to make, to be fair, even for our elite driver. But as we do come back to your racing, Simnor versus Jones. So whilst 2 DCW racing drivers having difficulty, well, one DCW racing driver having difficulty, the other 2 having a much easier day of this. Although, to be fair, how hot the track surface is, I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes and behind cool heads, they are struggling a little bit for traction at the moment. And also, to be fair, I think everybody on the tyres they've started on, nobody seems to have changed tyres, and therefore that might be playing into the hands of the thought process here, which is just simply put, drive it consistently and drive it calmly, because those tyres right now are not going to feel anywhere near as grippy as they used to. And our GT3 tyre model, definitely one where the tyres can do well over an hour. They can do the best part of 2 to 3 hours before they need changing, but you do definitely need to manage the tyre when it's a hotter circuit, such as what we've seen here today. And the thing at SimRacing International is we do typically run at cooler conditions where possible, because we do appreciate the fact that whilst we do want a bit of realism in the weather, if you go too hot, in the end, the driving really becomes so tricky to the point whereby you've literally got to drive around as if you're driving on eggshells. For our drivers, therefore, it's a bit of an eggshell race today, given the fact that track temperature is still quite high, as we do show you the weather condition on the right side. In fact, that temperature has perked up a bit as we head towards midday. We're now up to a track temperature of 45 degrees centigrade, and humidity has slightly risen as well to 52%. That is going to feel very hot and sweaty inside the car, as much as it is here in the commentary booth, I can tell you that. And right now, our driver's doing a brilliant job here of managing these conditions. And well, James Mead, meanwhile, not quite on the pace of the leading pair, but he is exceptionally ahead of the rest of the field in terms of pace, as Wesley Van Ren's into pit lane. Car up on the jacks, and will comes down to Jackson Revolution Free Racing. A full change of tyres there, and makes way back out, I do believe. So goes on again, and I think just getting used to what the fresher tyres feel like, and see if he can find a bit more lap time. Using this now more as a practice session for himself, given the fact he won't be fighting with too many drivers. He does let James B go and put a lap on him. But James Paisley Knight, from one James who's doing well in Elite to one who's leading away in Pro. Well, there he is, Harvey Wheeler behind, and Max Wheeler. Last lap from Paisley Knight, a 51.85. This time around, what's it going to be? A 51.559. Max Wheeler, meanwhile, it's going to be a 51.402. So another 10th gained, and Hayden Ahmed following through with a 51.477. So the thought process is we could see a battle for the lead of the Pro class right at the end of this one. Meanwhile, Richard Sidler and Andy Jones, if they were any closer, I think they would be conjoined at the hip with regards to being a car. We look back for the rear of Richard Sidler right now as a faithful in the rear camera of that Ferrari of Jones. And Jones right now definitely looking the more confident of the two drivers. But I think both of them better hunters than they are what is hunted or prey. And I think both like to be chasers. Right now, Richard Sidler, of course, he's not unfamiliar with having a lot of pressure on him. He saw that last season in the Superstars class, when his battles towards the end of the season with Brandon Dyer and also with Milton Tomlinson Dennis, of which you will see them return to the racing for this season. And we're very excited for that. They'll all be in the elite class together, amongst plenty of fresh faces as well. It's going to be a very stacked elite class in Split A, and the pro class, to be fair, is no slouch either. And well, as they make their way under the bridge, 8 minutes to go, and Simner and Jones, they may be teammates here, but they're having some fun out there. And Andy Jones close enough, but not ready to pounce as of yet. Up Hazy Knight, Harvey Wheeler and Max Wheeler there, still staying within relative distance. Max Wheeler now getting that gap down to 2.3 seconds as they make their way down the back stretch. There you can see him in the rear of the picture, and also Hayden Ahmed. No change. We look to the class standings. And there's the proof of the 2.3 second gap between the class drivers, and Hayden Ahmed still a factor in that second behind Max Wheeler and just taking his time. But those are really where's the closest battles out there at the moment, and we've had a bit of a spread of the field otherwise through incidents and difficulties for drivers, and we have sadly lost two pros along the way, including Jan Janchik and also Mav Gardner, who was the first to retire after that moment with Hayden Ahmed, where the two cars got caught in each other going out to turn 9 and both went to the barrier. But unfortunately for Gardner, he came out the worst of the two as he did go car face first into the barrier, whereas meanwhile Hayden Ahmed was able to slide to the barrier by comparison. But as they head on down, Patrick Falconer into the pit lane, and that is for a drive-through penalty, I believe, for what will be instant points. The DCW racing driver, what he does, the gradual drive down the pit lane, and well, in fact, I think he's going to actually park up. Well, if so, that might be his race done and dusted, unless there's a reason. Perhaps they need something to be looked at the car. It goes upwards the jacks there. But for Patrick Falconer, that may be the end of the story today. We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, we come from him to his two teammates, the DCW racers, Simler and Jones again. Right now, these two, 3 attempts away from each other, and Jones definitely putting the pressure on, but Simler withstanding the test, at least at the moment. But will we see any more moments from them before the very end? We may do so indeed. As meanwhile, James Mead, well, he's matching the pace of leaders now to the 10th, but understanding the Snack and Sons drive a bit too far back to really get involved at this point in time. He's going to need them to have a bit of a calamity or some major mistakes if he wants to be able to become a bit of a player in that battle right at the very end of this race. Otherwise, it'll be a solid third, and he'll give him a good gauge of where his pace is in the Corvette, and he'll have Richard Simnor as a brilliant yardstick. Remember, of course, that Richard Simnor used Leon Seeley as his yardstick in Season 12, and, well, is Richard Simnor the Corvette yardstick for all the elite drivers this season? We'll have to wait and see. It's great to see quite a bit of car variety here today as well. We've got Corvettes, we've got Ferraris, McLarens, Audis, BMWs, you name it, it's here. Of course, the drivers are not committed to their car for this season until round number 1. They do have the option of a car change mid-season when it comes to that 30 penalty points in their championship campaign. So therefore, don't expect, just because you've seen, for example, James Payne tonight in a McLaren going into this pre-season event, that you'll see him in the same McLaren going into round number 1. He may decide to change the car. Although, to be fair, a lovely livery like that, it would be a bit sad if we didn't see the chaps of Motorsport McLaren out there. Somebody's got it very wrong. In fact, that's a lot of smoke that's gone up. I wonder if that's Wesley Van Rens, who's had a bit of a trip. And Wesley Van Rens coming back on, and he does so and is disqualified from the race. And that is for instant points there. So Wesley Van Rens does make it to the number 26. And, well, sadly, that is his race over just like that. And there's the proof of the pudding in the fact that that is how quickly they do get disqualified. A bit unfortunate for Van Rens, although it means nothing in terms of points for this season. Because, of course, the points will be paid as the next round. As we briefly there have a bit of a graphical glitch. We do apologise for that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not quite sure what happened there. It does happen every so often on iRacing, it would seem. And Andy Jones right now carrying on as he makes his way on down. But roaring away onwards towards the braking zone for turn number 11. And he's definitely right now. Is Jones gearing himself up for a bit of a fight. But he is going to be still just waiting for that one opportunity. He does point the car a bit more towards the rear there of Simnor. He's definitely getting ready to try and pounce. 4 minutes to go, and based on the lap time here of just under 2 minutes, we have got a grand total of 3 more laps most likely. But here goes Jones. Now the fight begins. And, well, Richard Simnor knows when it's coming, and, well, Here we go then for the switchback for Andy Jones, but Simnor just simply parks right in his face and says, no, I see what you're trying to do, and you're going to have to be a bit more inventive than that. So he looks to the inside from quite far back, to be fair, looks once, decides not of it, and instead returns to the racing line. And going through turn number 3, Jones right now in a Ferrari that's not as quick in terms of corner exit speed by comparison compared to that Corvette. It does have the better top end speed, particularly when it's in the draft of another car. And we do know that in terms of the way these cars are balanced against each other, or the other full crest of the Ferrari is a little bit more economical on its tyres compared to the Corvette. Unless the Corvette tries to choose higher gears. The Corvette does have the advantage of a lot of torque through the rear wheels, and does mean you can save those tyres by using higher gears and not lose too much lap time. And from left into right here, very similar cars as well. So it's really going to come down to the drivers and how they've set up their cars for success. Right now, Jones not quite able to find that move as he breaks his way down in towards turn number 9. Definitely looking for it, but as he looks to poke and prod, well, we come back to Max Wheeler, all in the back of Harvey Wheeler in the fight for 2nd in the Pro class and 5th overall. Hayden Ahmed, the actor there, trying to steal away that 2nd place spot on the Pro podium for Max Wheeler. And 3-wheeler racing pair together right now, and Hayden Ahmed just hoping that he's able to find a way in. As James Paisley Knight seems to have stabilised the gap now to 2 seconds from this trio. If anything, it does seem as though Harvey Wheeler's actually lost a little bit of pace in that BMW M4, and it's Max Wheeler who's gaining, and Hayden Ahmed who's gaining with him. That's the way the lap time seemed to have turned. Now, we have lost Patrick Falconer from this race. He's in the pit lane. I do believe his race is done and dusted, so he's decided to park up. He's not going any further. So we are now down to 8 runners as we head towards the last moments of this. And, well, penultimate lap. And as they come across that timeline, Simnor 2 attempts ahead of Jones, but into turn 1 they go once again. And this time, what does Andy Jones do differently? We know he's stronger through these corners compared to Simnor, and the answer is he doesn't really find a way in. In fact, Jones has to back off the throttle there. That was hesitant coming through turn number 2, and I think there's just a bit of aero wash over the front end, just making it not want to bite in as much as possible. Through that left-hander and up towards turn number 4, and Simnor right now, what he needs to do is hold that track position. He should be relatively safe. Pound them out towards turn number 5. You can see there, right now, that gap opens back up to 3.5 tenths. It looks bigger than it really is. And, well, right now, Simnor doing everything right when he needs to. Looking back to Harvey Wheeler and Max Wheeler. And, well, I think our BMW leader in this trio is struggling a little bit for tyres now. As we do so, they've actually closed the gap to Paisley Knight down by another 10th here. But look at Max Wheeler. Takes a look to the inside and trying to say to Harvey, look, I'm quicker than you. I'm going to try and come through. And it's definitely increasing, looking as though that BMW M4, we might have seen an Achilles heel here today. High track temperatures, it does wear those tyres down. That rear actually becomes a bit less settled. We don't know why the Achilles heels of the original BMW was, of course, the fact it was not a very lively car until the tyres were worn down, and then suddenly it was really lively over the rear axle. Whereas here with the Evo car, it's much livelier by default, and worn tyres are going to make it even trickier on that rear end. So that's definitely going to be something that Harvey Wheeler will need to get on top of, but other riders will take note of today. Indeed, for any BMW driver we see who goes racing this season. But as we come back to the front, to your elite lead battle between the DCW racing pair of Simnor and Jones, well, through turn 12 and 13 they come, and it's the final corner for the penultimate lap. It's one more lap to go here. Can Simnor hold on, or will Jones find a way to get under his skin and take the lead right at the end? The white flag waves, ladies and gentlemen. It's time then for one last tour of the Motegi circuit here in Japan. But who will lead the way home in this pre-season event, and who will take the bragging rights and set the initial pace before we do go into round number 1 at Watkins Glen in a week's time? It's Simnor who leads, but Jones is right there with him. And as for the pro lead battle, it is James Paisley Knight looking safe at the moment, but he's got a 1.7 second gap to Harvey Wheeler, and a further 3 tenths behind is Max Wheeler, 2nd of the class, with Hayden Ahmed for friendly company, or rival company really, in 3rd there. But as their battle goes on to that final lap, meanwhile we come back to those leaders. Overall in an elite of Simnor and Jones, and Andy Jones this time a bit close on the braking in towards the right-hander at turn number 5, but again he gets close on the braking, makes those corner exits, he's just not quite able to gain as much ground. That Corvette's so quick out the corners when it gets hooked up, and that I think is where Simnor is just holding that time. Whilst he may not look as comfortable in the long-term overlap, if he gets a good corner exit out in those low-speed corners, there's no way that car can be touched. As meanwhile, we'll change of position here. This will be for 5th place. That will be Max Wheeler on the inside of Harvey Wheeler. Overall position only, with the pro getting ahead of the elite for 3-wheeler racing, the 2 teammates. And right now, Max Wheeler weaves his way on down towards turn number 5. And, well, I think that's teasing his son, but at the same time as well, I think simply trying to make sure right now he holds that position as Hayden Ahmed looks to go on the attack. It's a bit too far back to be able to close that gap up. But meanwhile, back to Richard Simnor we come. And the DCW Racing driver in control for now, with Andy Jones there with him. And Will Jones 4 attempts behind at this point. I don't think, unless Simnor makes a mistake for these last couple of quarters, I don't think Jones has got an answer to Simnor. And as they come through, the double left into Rayo turns 12, 13 and 14. We have had Harvey Wheeler give way to Hayden Ahmed off camera. But out the final corner they go, and the Changa flag gets ready to wave. And for Richard Simnor, he's going to lead home a 1-2 for DCW Racing Elite. And overall, your, what was Season 12 champion in Masters. We happy that starts off his season with a win, no points, only bragging rights, and then we will see James Mead come through third place, elite and overall for Snack & Sons in a highly consistent drive, and one that definitely will take him far if he does it next week at Watkins Glen. Then James Paisley Knight, he's got a bit of time to go, but the pro driver, he's been up, he's been down, he's been around this field, but the Chaps Motorsport driver in the end went for the overcutting strategy, and it paid off massively. He may not have been the quickest driver out there today, but he is going to take that pro win by 2.1 seconds ahead of Max Wheeler in the three-wheeler racing Audi. Hayden Ahmed completes the top three in pro, and 6th overall just ahead of Harvey Wheeler, who seemed to drop off right at the end in terms of tyre life, and it will be Benjamin Hunter who will be shortly making his way through to be the final finish of this one. As we do say hello there to none other than Sam Hockley, who is part of the Chaps Motorsport team. And we'll get to see Sam tune in, and we'll get to see him, of course, joining the grid in a week's time and representing the team. An absolutely brilliant team out there as Benjamin Hunter heads towards that timeline. And the Snack & Sons driver in the end enjoying himself out there, even if his main battle was with Yan Cheek much earlier on in the race. But as all drives cool and calm on down, let's take a look to the scenic view and with those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as those results do come up on screen, here they are, ladies and gentlemen, and, well, it's overall positions first and foremost. And as we can see, here at Mobility Resort Motegi for the pre-season race meet for Split A's Season 13 of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship, brought to you on iRacing. Richard Simnor leading home a 1-2 for DCW Racing by 1.5 tenths ahead of Andy Jones. Jones in the Ferrari looked to be the better strategic driver, but Simnor had the pace in the Corvette just to stay one step ahead, although they swapped places multiple times, and Simnor in the end proved to be the slightly quicker driver, but he could never quite drop the Welshman. Then it was fellow Briton James Mead at third there for Snack & Sons, who stayed on the pace of leaders initially, but was gradually dropped. But to be fair, I'll be confident to know he's definitely in touching distance of race leading pace. James Paisley Knight, he followed up, another James there, missed out on the overall podium, but most important for him, the pro win there for Chaps Motorsport. A very solid drive and a brilliant and quite an epic freeway fight between himself, Max Wheeler and Hayden Ahmed. There will be some question marks about that instance at turn number 9, but I'm sure all be forgiven. And Max Wheeler in the three-wheeler racing Audi definitely went airborne at one point, then put it back down to earth and brought home a second place just ahead of Hayden Ahmed, who completed a double podium in pro for Chaps Motorsport with third place in class. Unfortunately, it was an undercut strategy that didn't work out for Ahmed, but the damage on the car and that poor pit entry, it was the difference. And Harvey Wheeler took 7th place there for three-wheeler racing. Looked very quick in the early stage of the race in that BMW M4, but the pace slipped away from the car as the race went on. Benjamin Hunter, 4th in pro there for Snack & Sons, your last finish of this race on the lead lap and overall. And we did see, will be classified as a finisher as they complete over 75% of the race distance. You'll see there Wesley Van Rens Revolution Free Racing and Patrick Falcon for DCW Racing, retiring, of course, after his big spin and also his black flag. And we did see the disqualification of Wesley Van Rens, and he was set back a lap. Sadly, classified as non-finishers for not completing 75% of the race distance, Yan Cheek for the privateer, and also Mav Garner for SimRacing Collective Esports, with his throttle body getting stuck wide open in that battle with Hayden Ahmed, and that's why the two came together coming out of turn number 9, from what we understand. But then we come to the individual class finishing positions, because this is where the points will be made and paid when we do go racing formally in a week's time for round number 1. And Richardson will taking the win in elite for DCW Racing ahead of his teammate Andy Jones, and Snack & Sons James Mead round off the podium. Three-wheeler racing's Harvey Wheeler a further 24 seconds behind, and then we did have the sole retiree but classified as finisher of DCW Racing Patrick Falconer, who couldn't quite make it 1-2-3 today, instead had to settle for 5th. Then to pro we go. And here in pro, James Paisley Knight for Chaps Motorsport leading home at the race by 2.3 seconds over three-wheeler racing's Max Wheeler in an Audi that looked highly competitive versus the rather pointed McLaren of Paisley Knight. And we did see 2 McLarens on the podium for Chaps Motorsport because Hayden Ahmed, an undercut that didn't work out, but still a solid bit of strategy to make sure he finished 3rd and was only 3 seconds off the race winner and 6 tenths off of the runner-up. Benjamin Hunter, last year finishers on the road, 31 seconds off the leader. The Snack and Sons drive having a bit of a lonely race after losing his dance partner in the form of Yan Cheek. And then we did see 5 laps down, disqualified but classified as a finisher. Wesley Van Ren's there for Revolution Free Racing. Yan Cheek sadly retired with 12 to go, therefore a non-finisher, the privateer in his Audi, but he put up some brilliant battling. And behind the Pokemon livery machine, we did see the SimRacing Collective Esports' Mav Gardner with that huge instant into the barrier coming out of turn number 9, spawning his race early on and seeing him have to retire. But what a race it's been here, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And well, I do believe we are going to be briefly stepping away for a moment, but we may be having an opportunity to catch an interview or two with one or two of our drivers if they are able to join us. Of course, it's been very hot inside those rigs, so we're going to step away and we'll be right back in approximately 5 minutes' time for any post-round interviews. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener. As Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately go on the attack into the braking zone. One drive into the grass already. That's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1. And as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3. And Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there in 3 to the inside of 4 then. And Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Fords, for the Ford and the Corvettes, the two Americans I should say. And
with those two Evo drivers in front of them, because they're realistically in a completely different race, they're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, sorry, up high. He decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead. Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green. And as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him. But look behind, Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back, we've got 3, 4 wide. They're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner, Statman. And Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second. And if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow. In towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way. And it's 2 wide on entry. But Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third. But Callum Lux does clear another one. And now only one car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think the old Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be 2 wide with him, but 2 wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes on the switchback there. 9 has no way through, and in the end, as they come down towards turn number 8, well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener. As Sardplay gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately go on the attack into the braking zone. One drive into the grass already. That's Mikey Story, but 3 wide. They come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1. And as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3. And Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then. And Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's time to bring you some post-round interviews from Split A's pre-season event. And our first interview for the season joins me now in the interview room. It's none other than James Paisley Knight for Chaps Motorsport. James, good evening to you. What a race for yourself. A win in the pro class. And to be fair, whilst we had a low number of pros out there, you had plenty of company in that fight.
Yeah, it was an intense race. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. It was warm. I was glad I got my aircon blasting at me for most of the race. But yeah, had really good battles with everybody. I'm sort of glad that it wasn't a busier field, to be honest, because I think when the tyres were going off towards the end of the race, it was panic station. But yeah, got through it.
Oh, indeed, you got through it for the win. But talking a little bit about car choice. Now, I've got to say, the Chaps Motorsport livery on that McLaren, absolutely brilliant. Is this the car you're definitely bringing to the grid for season 13?
Yeah, I think my teammate Joe would murder us if we changed car after all the effort he put into the livery. So yeah, we're going to be sticking with the McLaren. But yeah, it's we only started racing with the McLaren a few weeks ago. It was Sam Hockley who was racing with you last season, switched over to the McLaren and was like, you've got to try it. And so, yeah, made the switch from the Aston and, yeah, feels like I've really sort of come alive in it. It's a great car.
Oh, fantastic. Now, we saw you come alive a bit in qualifying, taking 6th overall and 2nd in class. Were you happy with your qualifying lap?
No, I didn't really get a full lap together, to be honest. I ended up sort of going out for my first stint and I'd not put enough fuel in. So by the time the tyres had sort of warmed up and got into a rhythm, I was like back into refuel and just never put the lap together. But yeah, I think the race pace was good after a while. I sort of found myself driving in the mirrors a little bit. But yeah, sort of got into a rhythm after a while. But yeah, quality's something to work on, I think.
Well, something to perhaps work on, but when we did go race, of course, qualifying is just 1 lap, and then we had an absolutely brilliant race. And from the outset, you found yourself right in the thick of primarily a pro class battle, but of course, there was the one fly in the ointment of none other, well, 2 flies, firstly, Patrick Falconer, who had a bit of a spin, and also Harvey Wheeler. How was that managing?
It was busy. It was very busy. There was a couple of moments where you're sort of on the outside of a turn and you're just hoping that you're not going to get collected or something like that, but everyone drove really well. It was intense. I think when I made the move to get up into the class lead, I managed to sort of get a really good run out of turn 2. And once I sort of got out of that melee a little bit, I could breathe. But I think those first 5 laps, me and Hayden were on the radio together, just sort of going, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, good fun.
Oh, it was really good fun. I do have to ask, and this is not pointing fingers, of course, there's always a perspective every mode. Into turn 9, we did see a bit of contact between yourself and Max Wheeler. You made Max Wheeler's Audi go airborne in the end on the cameras. What happened from your perspective? Because it looks like you jinxed the inside at the last moment to defend. Was it just a bit of late braking?
I didn't even know that we'd had any contact. I don't even remember that, to be honest. I'll have to look back at that. Which lap was that? Was that towards the start of the race?
I think it was towards the start, to be fair. I'm just double checking. I think it was on lap 2. It was as Harvey Wheeler went up your inside, and then Max Wheeler, I think, decided, with the doors open and my son's opened the door, I can come through as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I honestly don't even remember that happening. And Max has messaged me and said, sorry for clipping you at the start. I got distracted by Harvey. So I don't know if it's to do with that one, but yeah, I honestly don't remember it. I'm gonna have to have another look back at that. But yeah, if I've caused an incident, I'll definitely apologise. Yeah. No memory. It's all a blur.
Well, to be fair, if you've had that much fun, instant or not, I'm sure all can be forgiven. And I'm loving the spirit
Yeah.
from yourself already. And as the race went on, of course, we saw you take a degree of control of the lead of the pro class. Did you always
Yeah.
plan to go as long as possible?
Yeah, that was the strategy. Hayden came in early just to see if the undercut would work for us, and I just decided to try and sort of elongate it out as much as I could, try and take advantage of having a bit of a lighter car. But yeah, I didn't expect to come out with that much of an advantage. But Max said he overshot his pit box. I think that's probably why I ended up sort of benefiting by sort of 3 seconds or so. But I was expecting to be fighting for my life again as soon as I came back out. So yeah, worked out well. I was happy with it.
Well, it worked out very well for yourself. And in those closing laps, we did see the gap initially between yourself and the trio behind you closing, but you seemed to get to grips with the car again. Is that the way it played out?
Yeah, it was. I was really struggling with the heat. When I'd been practicing, it was a lot cooler, and I think it took me a good 45 minutes just to acclimatise really to sort of those hotter temperatures through some of the corners. So, yeah, I think that the final sort of 3 or 4 laps, I felt more in control, whereas I was sort of fighting the track for the first sort of half an hour, 45 minutes. It felt like.
All fair play. Now, of course, no points up for grabs today, but still a very good result from yourself. Is this what we could expect from you week in and week out in the season ahead?
Paul, I'd love to sit here and tell you I'm going to be a championship contender, but I probably not. I reckon this was a fluke, but we shall see. I'm unfortunately missing the first couple of weeks. I'm going to be away, so I'm going to have a lot of catching up to do. But yeah, week 3, hopefully I can be sort of up at the sharp end of the pro class again. But yeah, I'm gonna dine in on this on this win for the next few weeks and get ready to go again in week 3.
Oh, fair play. And are there any rounds this season whereby if you had to pick one round or one circuit we're racing at where you'd say, you know what, if there's one round I'm going to do exceptionally well at, you need to watch for me there?
Oh, I'm going to say Spa, actually. I do really enjoy Spa. Now, the issue is everybody loves Spa. So as much as I enjoy it and I put a lot of laps in there, I think everybody else will be doing the same. So yeah, I think I have, whenever I've done leagues in the past, there's always a random week that I surprise myself at, and it's usually a track that I don't enjoy necessarily. So I think we'll just have to see.
All fair play. We look forward to seeing how the season plays out for yourself. But just as we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to Hayden, Joe, and Sam, the chaps boys that helped us with delivery, and obviously Hayden and Sam racing, and then my lovely wife, who is currently stuck in Manchester Airport trying to get home. I don't know if she's watching, but I hope that she doesn't melt at the airport.
Oh dear, well, indeed. Hopefully, safe travels home for her. And like you say, she doesn't melt given these conditions. But I'll go let you cool off. James, it's been a blast catching up with you after a brilliant race day. We look forward to seeing you on the grid a couple of rounds into the season, see what you can do in season 13. But until then, like you say, dine on this win. You've earned it the hard way. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much, Paul. Good evening, everyone.
So here and there from a very happy James Paisley Knight, ladies and gentlemen, a pro driver today for Chaps Motorsport, who wasn't too happy with his qualifying performance, but was very happy with how the race played out. Indeed, did an absolutely brilliant job and had so much fun with it. Didn't even recall the big knock between himself and Max Wheeler. Now, to be fair, I get the feeling he was just enjoying the races so much and so focused that in the end, when things like that happen, sometimes you just have a memory blank. It does happen. But the flip side of the coin, course being, he enjoyed himself so much out there in the end that he did bring on home a brilliant win. Not worth any points, but definitely some bragging rights there. Interested to talk about the McLaren, saying that brilliant livery that he's definitely committing to the McLaren for this season. But it does seem as though, given the influence from Sam Hockley, the whole team really enjoying the car, and it goes to show, and we'll definitely see him on the grid from round 3 onwards. And well, he says that he enjoys Spa for emissions, but so many drivers do. But there's normally a random round in a season where he normally goes very well, and that's what we need to keep an eye out for our number 257 driver. I can tell you one thing, we're going to miss him for the first couple of rounds because he's been a star today, and hopefully we get to see plenty more of him as the season gets underway. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple more interviews to come. We'll be right back for our next one. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the elite class now, and as we do, well, we're going to be catching up with the man who finished third today, because joining me in the interview now is none other than James Mead. And well, as I pull James Mead away from his fellow elite sitting in the waiting room, who I won't reveal his name because we don't want to spoil who the next interview is. James, good evening to you. What a race for yourself today. Second in qualifying, third overall, a very consistent one.
Yeah, hi Paul. Yeah, it was okay. It was better than I was expecting it to be honest, because haven't really driven this track or anything like that, and this heat, not much practice went in, so pleasantly surprised with where it was. Although race pace was a little bit lacking, I hoped for a little bit better there, but overall, very good race.
Oh, indeed, a good race for yourself. Now, car choice, the Corvette. Are you committed to this car for the season?
I am going to, and it's my favourite looking one. I don't drive it, so I want to learn it. And it's an underdog, and it's a bit of a beast to tame. So I think if I can learn this one and try and get a bit of a grasp on this, then hopefully I can drive all the others. But it's just forcing myself to drive a different one that's a bit more of a challenge.
I love the logic, to be fair. And you know what? As much as I'm not allowed to have favourites of the commentator, I do love the look of the Corvette, and the livery on the car from Snack & Sons really makes it pop. And we're grateful to see you bringing the Corvette out. But in terms of qualifying, second in the end. And, well, to be fair to yourself, a very good lap and only 600ths off of the pole time set by our previous season champion, Richard Simnor. Were you shocked by that?
Yes. Yes, I was definitely shocked by that. Yeah, didn't expect it to be quite as close and quite as good a lap. But like I say, that's why I did a little bit of practice, but I only bought the track last week. So I was just trying to hope that I could get some kind of decent pace out of it. Did more quali practice than race practice, which shone through. So yeah, need to work a bit more on the race pace. But I was very pleasantly surprised with the quali. I wasn't expecting to be even in the top 3 with that. So yeah, that was a good turn up for the books.
Indeed, a good turn. And then when we did go racing, it did look as though in the early stages, the DCW racing pair of Andy Jones and Richard Simnor were within reach, but as the race went on, we just saw them slowly creep away. Is that how it felt to yourself?
Yes, yeah, unfortunately, yeah. And Patrick had a bit of a, I think it was Patrick, had a bit of a spin in front of me on lap 2. Obviously dropped quite a few seconds off the back of the lead in 2. And I knew that was going to be a pretty insurmountable task with pace-wise, especially from the quali times, just basing it on that alone. So I just went into full, can I fuel save? Can I gain anything back on fuel saving? But I knew those two, being in the same team, they've got a bit of a toe drafting potential fuel saving strats they could play. So yeah, I just went into full fuel save mode and see if I can get anything there, but it was just too slow and just dropped off. Didn't turn into anything at the end, but I thought I'd try at least an alternative option.
Well, it's always good to give an alternative a go, like you say. Didn't quite work out today, but to be fair, no points up for grabs, just bragging rights for this one. But we know you commit to the Corvette, and 10 rounds lying wait. Are there any rounds in particular which we need to know that we need to watch out for you at those particular circuits?
I mean, I kind of want to say, but at the same time, I don't want to jinx it. But Bathurst is my one true love of a track. I adore that track. So I've kind of got a quiet hope on there that if I can keep it clean, hopefully that can yield one of my better results of the season is what I'm hoping for.
All fair play. And a curious question as well for our viewers out there. Snack & Sons, where does the team name come from? Because it's making us all a bit hungry.
So that is one that I joined this team not too long ago, about a year ago, but it was previously from 2 different Rocket League pro teams. And it was, I can't remember what the originating was, but it was Snack and something, and then there was another team that was something and Sons, so they just amalgamated and created Snack and Sons and then go into SimRacing. So I wasn't fully part of the originating join, but yeah, that's where it came from.
All fair play. I love the background on the team. And just before we do let you go, James, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
I'll give a mention to Ben, my teammate. He really struggled with getting any practice time in. I think he only got the track a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, he put a good effort in just learning the track and doing some laps and getting used to it.
Oh, fair play. Well, Ben, I appreciate the shout out. But with that, James, we'll leave it there. Congratulations today on taking the podium. Not quite perhaps the race result you were expecting given how you qualified, but plenty more to come. And we'll keep an eagle eye out for you at Watkins Glen in a week's time and see whether you can be right up the front once again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting. It's brilliant.
It's my pleasure. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hearing from James Mead, goodness me, absolutely jolly and well. I can tell you one thing, I love his attitude there. The fact, a bit surprised to be right up towards the front and challenging the previous season champion in what you could regard as an equivalent of the elite class. 600ths off a pole. So pleasantly surprised, but perhaps a little bit disappointed the fact the way the field split, particularly when he was caught up behind Patrick Falconer earlier on and Falconer's spin, and it just cost him the ability to stay with the DCW drives. And admitted there, he went all in the fuel saving to see where he could find a way to close the time up. It never quite worked, and therefore was sadly relegated to third place. But he's definitely going to be a driver to watch out for, is James Mead, and he's going with a Corvette, a car he's not used to, but he loves the look of. He knows it's a challenge, it's an underdog, and those are the stories we always love to hear. A driver going out there, not picking the car that is considered to be meta or things on those lines, or the most viable option of a car, but instead going for something different and trying to get the most out of it. And that's how a driver definitely grows when they put themselves out of their comfort zone. But how much will James Mead grow over the season in the elite class? Well, time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. We'll definitely find out. But with that, we've got one more interview to come. We'll be right back for our final interview of this evening. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to now bring you your final interview for this evening. And joining us in the interview room is none other than the DCW racing leader himself today, Richard Simnor. Richard, good evening to you. And, well, it's almost as if season 12 hasn't ended. Pressure right at the end of the season and pressure here today, but this time from a teammate.
Hey up. I'm absolutely gassed. No, it was alright, wasn't it? Good fun. Yeah, Andy was it took a bit of persuading to get him to turn up. I wish I hadn't. But yeah, we were all sort of sat there going, it's going to be too hot, isn't it? It's going to be too hot to race. And I said, oh, come on, we might as well turn up. And he said, okay, fine. And then spent an hour on my rear bumper hounding me. And yeah, we had a good giggle. You know, we're just there chatting away on Discord, discussing. We spent most of the time discussing the merits of each car because you know the car choices aren't quite locked in. Certainly for Andy and Paddy, they're not quite sure whether it's going to be the Ferrari yet, so they were giving it a go. And he was we were talking through most of the corners, where we were strong and where we weren't strong, and just sort of trying to figure out the relative strengths and differences in setup and stuff like that. So it was a nice sort of. I mean, we obviously went for it when we had a chance, and put our nose in where we could and all this kind of stuff. But obviously conscious not to take each other out and ruin what could be a nice result. But yeah, it's fun. But I am just so exhausted right now.
Oh, indeed. Quite the time race, particularly given the weather conditions that we're experiencing today in our own personal rigs and homes. But, of course, for yourself, back in the Corvette that took you to glory in Season 12, looking very quick out there, taking a pole lap, putting in a very close pole between yourself and James Mead.
Yeah, he did. He put in a really good lap. And, I mean, the Corvette's a bit of a sleeper car, isn't it? Because not many people like to choose it. I think it feels very unruly to begin with, and you have to get used to the way that it brakes, because it will snap on you if you don't brake properly. But once you sort of get used to the sort of nuances of the car, it's as rapid as all of them. And in fact, I think the reason I like it so much is it's on the nose. It's got some nice oversteer where you need it, so you're not sort of having to struggle like in the Mustang where you'd get on the power and it just goes straight. The Corvette, you can get once the tyres are in, of course. I mean, first couple of laps it's the same as all the others, but once the tyres are in, it gets really quite lively and exciting to drive. So yeah, it's nice to see James. Obviously, it's his first time with us, and he was telling me before he came and got interviewed, and I know he said it on the interview as well, about just wanting to jump in the car to learn it. And I mean, if he's there within a tenth of me, then he's going to be good then, isn't he? So, okay, maybe he didn't have the pace over the course of the hour. But then if you think back to the start of last season with me, I didn't really have the pace across the whole of the hour versus the guys at the front. But it came good to the end. And I said to him, don't worry about where you are. Just make sure you finish. Make sure you always get a result each week, and you'll find you'll be in a place where you didn't expect yourself to be. And I'm sure you'll get a really good result at some point during the season. Especially with being able to pull a lap out like that. Nobody was within about half a second in practice. So I thought, well, this will be okay. I'll be able to get the lap in. When I got the lap in, I thought, okay, cool, sorted. And then it just came out of nowhere, and he was within a tenth. And I thought, okay, wow, geez, I'm really going to sort of try and put a better lap in, then maybe the track's ramping up. And I nearly did it on the last tour. I was about a tenth up until the last corner, but it's just typical, isn't it? You sort of you get it all the way around the circuit, tenth up on your pole lap time, and then you bottle it at the last corner. But happens.
Oh, indeed. But of course, you nailed it in qualifying, even with a 10th that went astray. And in the race, like you mentioned earlier on, it was yourself and Andy for the majority of the journey, but he never let up. I mean, did you prefer to be the hunter or the hunted, given he did find a way to get ahead of you through the pit stop strategy, only for you to find your way back ahead?
No, I'm fine. He was purposely doing a bit of sort of white van driving, as we were sort of calling it, driving in my mirrors. To sort of try and distract at times. It's good practice, and he knows, he races cars in real life, so it's not like he's not aware of the dangers of being in that sort of vortex of danger and trying to put a nose in. He's very aware of what he's doing and when he's doing it. But yeah, sometimes with the heat being what it is, I think we both just had lapses of concentration. But the hilarious thing about it is that we both had the same lapse of concentration at the same time, and both made the same mistakes at the same corner. So it was always just like status quo the whole way around. But it was always going to be just like one mistake from either of us would have made the difference. And in the end, what it turned out to be was, we agreed that we wouldn't pit on the same lap for a start. So I said, well, I'll pit the lap earlier, and he'd probably get a bit of an advantage there. So I came in the lap before him, so we weren't, because it's a really tight pit entrance, and you're just going to end up rear-ending somebody. So we worked that out quite well. And then I came out in traffic with, was it Harvey or Max? It was one of the wheelers.
It was Harvey Wheeler, I believe.
It was Harvey, yeah. And see, Harvey and I have we've been on the same bit of tarmac plenty of times in previous seasons. So, he knows he can race me. I know I can safely be alongside without too much worry. But I think the car was just that little bit better than his today, especially in the traction zones. And that brings me on to the overtake, because the difference between the Ferrari and the Corvette was I mean, he had the legs. Andy had the legs on me in the final corners. He was able to just throw it around those, whereas I had to be super cautious. But in the hairpins before that, I had way better traction, and he had an issue where on that sort of main hairpin before you go down to the final few corners, he was a bit between gears, if that makes sense. So it was a bit too low for a second gear and a bit too high for first gear. Whereas for me, it was like bang on second gear, and that meant that I could just floor it out the corner and not worry too much. He had a gear change in there, and then I think we sort of figured out that I had a little bit less wing than him, and then that just gave me the toe down the straights, and I already knew how good the Corvette braking was. So I just lined it up and what did we say? Licked the stamp and sent it, which was fine. Yeah, we both got into the corner and out of the corner nice and synchronously, I guess, and I was in front, and that was it. But I think what was worrying was actually getting on the traction at that corner, because I'm quite tight on the inside. It's just a camber because it's sort of off camber. As soon as I get on the power, it just goes straight to the outside. So my worry was either I was going to turn across his nose, or I was going to end up turning him. But we just managed to sort of miss each other by a couple of inches. So it worked out well. It worked out fine, and it probably looked quite exciting on the broadcast, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it was great to see the two of you fighting pretty much the entire way and being able to make that crucial move to take the lead and not let go. And we're winning the pre-season. What can we expect from you throughout the season? Is this going to be the season where you look to carry on from season 12? Are you expecting the competition to be a lot tougher?
No, I think the competition is going to be a lot tougher. I was sort of saying to James before, I was like, well, really, the guys in the Master Split and the guys at the front of the Superstar Split, I mean, I'm sort of expecting that our qualifying pace, despite looking very impressive today, will probably put us about 6th or 7th or 8th on the grid. It's not going to be as magical when everybody's there, because there will be some people who are just absolute worldies at quali and will always be at the front of the grid. But as long as you sort of work at it and persist across the course of a season, like what we saw last season, it sort of ramped up, and I was able to get the results nearer to the end. So yeah, you've got to just be patient, I think, especially at the start. And the first few rounds of every season is always a bit crashy as well. I think we've got to be aware of that and just make sure we just stay out of the trouble, do our own race, gain the places through everybody else's misfortune, and not go for anything too risky, which is the tactic that I employ for the whole season. But as seasons go, the attendance will always drop off. So as long as you always stay in it to win it, I guess, you'll always come out looking better as the season goes along. But it doesn't necessarily mean you've got faster or better. It could just mean that the fast guys have just gone, do you know what? I can't be bothered to race in this league if I keep getting biffed off every week, which happens. Because it will be fighty at the front as always. So yeah, we'll see. I think my expectations this season are what I expected last season, which is I'll finish somewhere in the middle. I mean, it obviously turned out to be better than that, but yeah, it doesn't mean I have to see this season as a defense. I think I just see this season as any season really, and just go into it the same way that I do every time, and just see where I come really. Which sounds, I would say, it sounds a bit boring, but it's at least that way I don't put pressure on myself unnecessarily, and we can always see results that might look a little bit lackluster at the start will actually come good near the end of the season. And as long as you don't get like a really bad race and that becomes our drop round, it should be that we'll be there or thereabouts come the last few rounds, and we'll see what we can do. Can we fight for it? Maybe. That would be my aim, of course. But I know that people especially people like Brendan, who raced me all the way to the end last season, is going to be really thirsty for it this season. So I expect, and Milton as well, those people to come out absolutely jumping at the bit to beat me. And good luck to them, and fair play if they do. It's I expect a good fight from them.
Oh, without a doubt. There's going to be plenty of fighting ahead. And like you said, and I do like that analogy, which is not necessarily about a title defense. It's just putting together a title challenge and seeing where you end up. And you may be pleasantly surprised once again. But we look forward to seeing how it all gets underway at Watkins Glen in a week's time. But just as we get ready to let you go, Richard, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to?
I'd like to give a shout out to the guys for turning up tonight. Everybody on the grid. Not just my team, but everybody who turned up. They must be 5 kilos lighter. Everybody's put in an absolute worldie to be on the grid for a whole hour in this heat. It's tough. It really is tough. It's tough when it's a cold day. So yeah, if anybody doesn't sort of understand how much energy gets put into doing sim racing, my watch tells me I've done a cycle ride for an hour and that my heart rate's been at about 150 to 160. So it actually ticked over 10,000 steps on my watch about halfway through the race, because it thought I was putting a mighty big old marathon in. So yeah, we are pumping a lot of energy into these sim rigs, and in this heat it's not easy. Everybody's going to be absolutely sweaty as anything. So congratulations to everybody for being there all the way to the end.
Oh, indeed. I couldn't have put it better myself, Richard. The fact that yourself and so many drivers tonight have turned up in this heat and delivered the laps is fantastic to see, and put some splendid racing throughout. But as we'll leave it there, we wish you all the best in your final preparations for Season 13 and look forward to seeing you taking on your roles in elite class. But until then, congratulations on the win in the pre-season and fending off Andy Jones, your teammate, and I'm sure a rival for the season. And we'll see you at Watkins Glen.
See you later.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Richard Simnor, our final interview of the day. And there's plenty to say there, and I do always love catching up with Richard, to be fair, and talking about the challenge once again of managing a battle with Andy Jones, and the turn talking about the different cars, the strengths and weaknesses. And it's very noticeable, as he mentioned there, the fact that with the Corvette not having to gear change too quickly on the exit of the corners, whereas the Ferrari 296 definitely losing out on the corner exit because of having to go from second to third, and that playing a big part there. And it just goes to show you the minutiae which DCW Racing really boil it down to. But at the same time as well, out there to have fun, and definitely today experimenting with strategy quite a bit, varying things up as well, and we're enjoying a good old battle. But Richard also really setting his sights firmly on just giving it his best round after round in the season that lies ahead, and seeing exactly which way it plays out, because that's exactly what he did in season 12 to become the Superstars Pro Champion. And something tells me if he takes a similar philosophy this season, whether it's a championship title or not, he's definitely going to be hunting for that crown from the start to the very finish. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews, and let's give you a quick reminder of who exactly we've spoken to today. And we've had 3 interviews after our pre-season event, and we spoke firstly to our pro driver of James Paisley Knight, your winner for Chaps Motorsport in the class today. He absolutely enjoyed himself out there, had plenty of fun, all elbows out, even if he didn't quite remember the entire story. To be fair, when you're having that much fun, there's always things you're going to forget, and when you're having such a good time, well, the only thing he'll remember most definitely is that he fought his way to the win. Then we came to the elite class and spoke to Snack & Sons James Mead for the team that formed off the basis of Rocket League pro teams, and we'll definitely, he was a bit of a rocket in what was qualifying, but in the end it didn't quite work out when he did go green flag racing, and in the end losing out slightly over the distance, but enjoyed a great second place in both class and also overall in that qualifying. As we do just briefly fix what was meant to be appearing on screen there, I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, that seems to have disappeared, and it comes back, and well, as we can see there, the second place for James Mead in qualifying, a third in the race, but an absolutely solid effort throughout, and we look forward to seeing what he can do when the show goes down at Watkins Glen. And then we did, well, in fact, yes, it will be James Mead. There won't be seeing James Paisley Knight for a couple of rounds. We'll see him in round number 3 before I get my 2 Jameses mixed up. And then we came to Richard Simnor, our defending Superstars Pro Champion, but put in the perspective in which he doesn't come into this season as a defending champion in his mind, but out there to have fun and take the fight to some of the very best out there in the elite class. And that's exactly what he did today, finding plenty of fighting company in the form of James Mead in qualifying, missing a 10th there off his optimum, and in the race enjoying the company of Andy Jones, and the fact it was a very back and forth strategic and tactical race between the 2 DCW racing drivers, but only one could win, and it was Richard Simnor. A big thank you to all 3 of our drivers for joining me for an interview, and we look forward to plenty more interviews by drivers as the season goes on. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about SimRacing International or how you can get on the grid and enjoy plenty of racing action on a weekly basis, aligned most of the time to all the iRacing official seasons, well, of course, all you need to do is join our official Discord invite link at the very bottom of your screen. And as of today, you could definitely get yourself signed up on the reserve list for our GT3 Championship, the Thursday edition of which we do have this preseason broadcast for today, and of course, we do have reserve slots available for the A split and the B split every Thursday evening on a weekly basis. Alternatively, if you're a GT racing fan but you prefer to race on Sundays in GT3s, we do have the UK SimRacing Sunday Showdown series, which returns for its 19th instalment, and that begins with its pre-season this coming weekend, albeit there won't be broadcast with circuit side, but we'll be broadcasting every round from round number 1 as if it were live. Or if you prefer the older GT machines, if you prefer go back in time to 2023 for the final year of GT racing, of course we have you covered there for the endurance season of the GT Championship Season 3, which is due to get underway on Friday evenings in a few weeks' time and run every 2 weeks. We also do have the very much open at the moment, and definitely if you have yourself and a teammate who are looking to get on the grid for something special in a Motorsport UK Esports Approved Championship, we do have the Transatlantic Trophy Season 1, which is all dedicated to the McLaren 720S Evo GT3 and the McLaren 570 GT4. That runs every 2 weeks, is due to get underway in approximately 5 weeks' time. But if you're looking for something far more casual and you're just looking to put your toes into the format of league racing, we do have three races per week in our practice league that runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So there's never been a better time to get on the grid here at SimRacing International, and for all that, all you need to do is join the official Discord to find out more. But of course, at this point in time, we would like to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include Carmate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and also give a big shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But to beyond we go, ladies and gentlemen, because next time out, we begin the season in anger. Next time, on Thursday, the 2nd of July, 2026, we're going to month number 7 of this year, and we start to pay the points to our drivers, because round number 1 will be in the US of A at the mecca of American road racing, the revival place of post-war road racing in the US of A. It'll be Watkins Glen International, the Villix of Dix in the Schuyler County of the US state of New York. Indeed, tune in a week's time to begin the season there, and you'll be in the very capable hands of none other than Joe Glass, who returns to the commentary booth after a brief break, and also Darragh Thacker will be joining him. And we must give a big shout out, of course, to Chaz Jaycott for covering for Joe Glass during his sabbatical. But of course, we will miss Chaz, but we'll be very much welcome back Joe Glass. Now, if you are sat there right now, as Katie Eames or Kitty's Mad will be a regular fan of SimRacing International broadcast and asking, well, I've missed Split B. What exactly has happened to Split B? We will be bringing you Split B's pre-season as if it were live, and that will be on Wednesday, the 1st of July next week. I'll be in the commentary booth for that, catch up with all the racing action, and I will be your Split B commentator live from circuit side for the whole of the season. So it will be goodbye from me for Split A for the remainder of the season, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful for the privilege to have the opportunity to cover the pre-season event, but you'll be in the capable hands of Joe Glass and Darragh Thacker, and you'll find me over in Split B. But until then, in a week's time, thank you very much for tuning in. That's all we've got time for here today. We've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.